Thank you. All right, here we go, fans. Special meeting of the Enhanced Infrastructure Financing District and Public Financing Authority is called to order. May I have a roll call, please?
Authority Board Member Apodaca.
Here.
Authority Board Member Perez.
Here.
Authority Board Member Shryock.
Here.
Chair Ayala.
Here. Okay. Do we have any public comments for this item, Ruth? Okay. Reports, introduction to Enhanced Infrastructure Financing District and Public Financing Authority. Staff report, please.
Yes, Honorable Chair Ayala, Joseph Dieguez from Cosmont is here to give the report give you some background on how this authority came to be. And this is an action item at the conclusion of the presentation where you'll be asked to adopt a resolution approving the bylaws for the authority. This is the inaugural meeting. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Does anybody want to speak so far? Do any authority members have questions? Okay, item number 2, adoption of financing authority resolution number EIFD-01 to adopt the bylaws of the Norwalk Enhanced Infrastructure Financing District and direct staff to prepare the infrastructure financing plan for the Norwalk Enhanced Infrastructure Financing District. Could I have a staff report, please?
Yes, Honorable Chair Joseph Dieguez from Cosmont will go over a few slides. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dieguez here with Cosmont, privileged to be your development advisor. So, clarify, at least for members of the public, this is a infrastructure financing, public financing kickoff meeting.
Excuse me for one sec. Can we do something with his microphone?
Yes, we're already calling now.
All right.
Testing.
It's still cutting out.
Testing.
We don't have the hand mic?
Can we increase the volume?
Good evening, Chair. Is this better?
Yes.
Thank you. Joe Dieguez from Cosmont, Economic Development Advisor to the City. Clarify for members of the public, this is the meeting of the Enhanced Infrastructure Financing District Public Financing Authority. So this is a funding and financing tool. This is somewhat of a kickoff meeting. I'd love to provide a little bit of background. The city evaluated a specific type of tool. It's a financing district to help pay for infrastructure as a means to catalyze private sector investment, economic development into the community. There was an action taken at the city council meeting of March 18th, a resolution of intent of piece of its share of the future property tax dollar and put aside in a special fund, somewhat of a retirement account. Very importantly, what's happening is the county is then matching what you as a city are putting aside, like an employer matching an employee's allocation to their retirement account, and sort of joining the city as a participant in this investment vehicle, all focused on infrastructure and affordable housing within the city. So not a new tax, it's sort of a budgetary action moving forward with a match from an external entity in the county of Los Angeles as your partner. If there's direction today to prepare the plan, what that infrastructure financing plan will include is very clear description of what the boundary of this financing district looks like, what are the things that will get paid for, so what sorts of infrastructure, what is the type and magnitude of future development that is estimated within the boundary, how this benefits the community, that's letter C. What does this mean in terms of revenues, jobs, wages, those sorts of things? That's a required component. The financing section, letter D, is the specifics. How many dollars is the city exposed? What is the county matching you? What does that look like over time? Letter E is the goals, what do we hope to achieve over the next number of years? And then there are a series of technical appendices as part of the plan that just provides a lot of detail so that there's sort of really nowhere to hide, very transparent what the assumptions are in all of the analysis. The boundary, as previously mentioned, it is everything in a color on this map. These financing districts are meant to be sort of value capture districts where the private investment is coming in, capture that, and just allocate a piece of that into this special fund for infrastructure. But if there are other areas, let's say built out single family neighborhoods as an example, let's not touch those dollars. Those dollars are going to continue to flow to the general fund to sort of keep the lights on, fund ongoing services. And so the goal is generally to be very targeted in how these boundaries are drawn. And all of that in a color adds up to about 200 acres, just under 3% of the citywide acreage. So in the grand scheme of these districts, of the 32 or so that have been formed across the state, this is on the very targeted end of them, very focused geographically. It's less than 2% of the citywide existing assessed property value. The types of projects that have been discussed so far to potentially receive funding through this tool: affordable housing as a potential near-term priority, such as on the CYA property; roadway, utility capacity enhancements, so things like water, sewer, things that can catalyze private sector investment, such as Front Street utility, streetscape improvements; parks and open space have been mentioned several times; transit connectivity, getting people to and from transportation hubs safely. Think of like crosswalks, lighting, signage, all those sorts of things. And this is obviously not set in stone. These are examples. There are some draft findings in Cosmont's analysis so far. Things like housing production. What does it mean in terms of new units, affordable units, market rate units? Lots of numbers available from our analysis so far on permanent jobs, indirect jobs, temporary construction-related jobs. To be honest, a lot of the time we're spending on the analysis is just general fund. Is this a good use of the city's dollars? What's that return on investment for the community in terms of your dollars? And sort of very importantly, we're seeing a significantly positive, net positive general fund impact from implementation of this tool, both for the city as a lead agency and for the county as your potential partner in this endeavor. And then on the bottom, it's also very important, but less obvious. It's not just this tool generating dollars, but it's also attracting yet other public money. There are grant sources, especially at the state level, that are giving cities more points on your grant application in their scoring rubrics if you've got explicitly this type of tool in place. We kind of call these setting yourself up as a magnet for yet other public funding sources. So these are just draft terms. These will be memorialized in this infrastructure financing plan, but because the analysis has been already done, we're just trying to be overly transparent about it. What's been discussed so far is the city allocating not all of its future property tax, but around half of it within that draft boundary. And for that, the county would allocate half of its share. None of these are deal terms being decided on today. This is what we anticipate will be drafted into the infrastructure financing plan. And so order of magnitude to give folks a sense of scale here, we're talking about present value, $70 million today. That's the funding capacity of this tool, hoping to address $70 million of infrastructure costs over the district lifetime. So very importantly, the potential timeline, if this moves forward, of course, the March action was taken by the City Council, the companion motion by the County Board of Supervisors in April. Here we are today, merely sort of kicking off a potential formation process. Over the next several months, between now and November, there will be a series of public meetings and hearings, each with some form of newspaper notice, mail notice, website notice. The purpose is to be extremely transparent about what this all is. And the next time we would anticipate being together as this body, the Public Financing Authority, would be in September. That's the target, with a draft of this infrastructure financing plan, memorializing all those key deal terms, taking comment, of course, from the Public Financing Authority, comments from the public, and then after that, still more consideration by the City Council, independent consideration by the County Board of Supervisors, 2 more hearings by this body, and our goal, again, is before December 1st, specifically, to be completed with the public hearing process to wrap this thing up, if, of course, the body decides to continue. So for tonight, it's sort of merely a kickoff, a chance to re-review or review all of these fundamentals, hear any questions and comments this board may have. Administratively, there are bylaws appended to the agenda just to govern the activities, sort of roles, chair, vice chair, frequency of meetings, those sorts of things. And then letter C, it's somewhat of a formality. There needs to be direct, formal direction for staff to work with the consultant team to prepare this plan and come back to you in a public hearing. And again, the goal would be to come back around September for that presentation of the draft infrastructure financing plan. So thank you. Very happy to answer questions on this item.
Is there anybody from the public wishing to comment on this item? Seeing none, do any of the authority members have questions? Okay, I will entertain a motion.
Oh, Tony, can I just chime in a little bit? I'm a little rusty, but
yeah,
I just want to say
you did look a little rusty there.
I just want to say that I'm very, very excited about supporting you guys and using this very creative tool to see what we can do in terms of making our city better. So we're very, very excited and really excited to get to work with Cosmont because they are, as you know, cutting edge as you can get in this field. So we're here to support you guys. So thank you. Thank you for giving us the opportunity.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, thank you, former Mayor Lauren Shryock, Kim Apodaca, I remember her name, Kim Apodaca, Vice Chair of the Planning Commission. two really qualified people to do this, and I want to thank you for your service. Right now, I'm entertaining a motion, a second on this item 2.
I'll move it.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
You are rusty, Leonard.
Do you see? We were going to get to where you're at. I was just about ready to ask if there's any authority member remarks. Kim, did you have anything to say?
No, I don't tonight. Leonard, I'll ditto what Leonard said. Thank you for
you endorse
asking me to be a part of it. I appreciate it.
No, we appreciate you guys. And so I need a roll call on item 2. Ruth?
Authority Board Member Apodaca,
Aye.
Authority Board Member Perez,
Aye.
Authority Board Member Shryock,
Aye.
Chair
Aye. Okay, we're adjourned.
All right. Thank you.
Being that this is the inaugural meeting, why don't we get a photograph of this?
Test 1 2. Test 1 2.
I didn't realize we were doing
Test 1 2.
Okay, the regular meeting of the successor agency is called to order. Could I have a roll call, please?
Agency members Ramirez,
Here.
Rios,
Here.
Valencia,
Here.
Vice Chair Perez,
Here.
and Chair Ayala.
Here. Okay, next item is consent calendar.
I'll move it.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Agency members Ramirez,
Aye.
Rios,
Aye.
Valencia,
Aye.
Vice Chair Perez,
Aye.
and Chair Ayala.
Aye. Have an executive director's report, please.
None tonight. Thank you.
Okay. Is there anyone wishing to speak under oral communications for this agenda?
I don't have any cards for that.
Okay, seeing none, we're adjourned. Okay, I'm calling to order the regular meeting of the Norwalk City Council. Invocation and pledge. This evening, we're honored to welcome Manny Free from Hope City Church, who will lead us in prayer. Manny has been serving for 3 years and is also a teacher from his church. Following the invocation, we are joined by Daniela Mercado, an incoming 5th grader from Lambton Elementary School, who will lead us in the flag salute. Daniela is enjoying her summer break by drawing, swimming at a pool in Norwalk located at Cerritos College. At this time, I invite everyone to please stand as we begin with the invocation, followed by flag salute. Afterwards, Pastor Manny and Daniela will come up and join the council up front for a photograph.
Good evening. Let's pray. Dear Lord, we humbly come before you this evening asking for your guidance, strength, and covering over this great city and the leaders you have called to oversee it. I pray for the mayor, the vice mayor, and the city council members that you give them wisdom, knowledge, and your Spirit's direction to govern this city well according to your will. Your word admonishes us to pray for our elected leaders, that they would submit to your leadership and your guiding hand as they would serve the citizens of this community. I ask that you grant them grace as they face unique challenges. I ask that you give them wisdom and discernment as they work together to make difficult decisions, to lead this community in humility and in a spirit of unity, laying aside differences for the greater good of our city. I pray that you give them insight to the needs of the community and the care for the concerns of the people they represent. Let them be compassionate and sensitive to the most vulnerable members of our society. I pray that they would be servant leaders and faithful laborers unto you for the city of Norwalk. Lord, we know that the demands of leadership can often feel overwhelming and the heaviness of their responsibilities can be burdensome. So I ask that you give them resilience and strength to shoulder the weight of the call that you have placed upon them. Lord, I pray that you would bless the city council members and their families as they too make sacrifices. Father, help our council members find comfort in your word, peace in your protection, grace in your goodness, and refreshing in your awesome presence. And I pray for your watchful eye over our residents. And I pray, Lord, that you bless, prosper, and protect the city of Norwalk. In Jesus' name, amen.
Please put your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Manny, Daniela, please come forward.
Enjoy that pool.
City Clerk, can I have a roll call, please?
Council members Ramirez.
Here.
Rios.
Here.
Valencia.
Here.
Vice Chair Perez.
Here.
And, Vice Mayor. And Mayor Ayala.
Here. Okay, we roll into closed session report.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. The record should report that reflect that the City Council convened into closed session for discussion of the 5 items that were listed on the agenda. There should be a notation that item number 2, it should really be 54956.9, subsection D4, with the consideration of potential involvement in one matter of litigation. And regarding the 5 items that were presented to all 5 members of the City Council who were present, the record should further reflect that there was no action that is required to be reported pursuant to the Brown Act, and that all those items were discussed with the City Council. But there is nothing to report at this time. It's appropriate to continue with the open portion of the meeting.
Thank you, Arnold. Next, we have City Council comments. Councilmember Ramirez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No comments this evening.
Councilmember Rios.
Hi, yes, thank you, Mayor. Good evening and welcome everyone to our meeting today, and happy 1st of July, 2025. I hope you guys have been staying cool with this warm weather, but also enjoying the beautiful summer that we've been having. I know I've tried to. Summer's my favorite time of the year, so I'm trying to make the best of it while still staying really busy. I just want to share a couple of things. The first one I wanted to share was that on June 26th, I did have an opportunity to attend the Norwalk Business Chamber Coffee and Conversation at Chick-fil-A. Thank you to the Business Chamber for holding these events that bring several members of our community and partners together. And so I just want to give a little shout out to those that took of their time, of course, from running their business and other obligations to attend and build these partnerships and relationships that we're all working so hard towards. So I want to mention in attendance that morning was Community Family Guidance Center. We had Cerritos College, Mr. Rosewood's Family Restaurant, Farmer and Merchants Bank, Custom Made Graphics, California Department of Rehabilitation, Celico. We had Bridgewater Law Group, PNG Realty, Chick-fil-A, of course, who hosted that morning. We have representatives from Assemblymember Blanca Pacheco's office, Hoover Hub, TNT Fireworks, the Tax Sales Master, and Burnaby Community Center. So just wanted to give them a little shout out and thank them for coming to the City of Norwalk and partnering with us on making our community better and our businesses that much stronger. Thank you. Just one more item. On that same day, I volunteered to be a judge at Lakeside Middle School, that's in Little Lake, and Mr. Miguel Ortega, the gate coordinator, reached out, sent out an invite. This was my second time I was able to participate, and I absolutely said yes. I fit it into my schedule just because I love, being able to see what our youth, our young people are working on in the community. So these are students that are part of their STEM program, and these are 6th, 7th, and 8th graders who put together a project, and the project is based on, it's an innovation project. They work on robot design, but they also identify core values, and so they work on identifying a way to make our world better. And so what they were working on is this particular one, the presentation that I got to see from these young people was a robot design to help those individuals dealing with health issues, specifically diabetes. And so to hear from these young people thinking about how they can address a medical concern, I'm guessing a lot of them probably have family members that maybe are impacted by this disease. So they're forward thinking. They're thinking about innovation. They're thinking about the future. How do we, make things better for our family, our friends through health and wellness? And so their robot design was very interesting. And I was glad that I was able to volunteer and judge them on their presentation, which depending on how they do, it takes them to other competitive levels with other schools. So again, thank you to Mr. Miguel Ortega, the gate coordinator at Lakeside Middle School. And I hope that all of our young students and our families are staying safe and well during this summer break. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Margarita. Councilmember Valencia.
Thank you. I want to congratulate the Norwalk Girls Fast Pitch for making it to the finals. They're going to be going to Sacramento, and we wish them the best of luck. I was glad to contribute to their fundraising efforts, so I know that they are having some fundraisers. Please support, please go out and help these girls raise the much-needed funds to make it to these to this place where they can hopefully thrive and bring back a championship, because they've done it before, they can do it again. I truly believe in them. And also, there are lots of, it is summer, and happy summer. There are lots of activities that are going to be taking place, and we welcome you to attend those activities. I know that there is, we're living in unprecedented times, and there is a lot of fear, there's a lot going on with raids or what have you, but just know that Norwalk is, we are taking the precautions to make it as safe as possible for all residents. And that's something that we truly feel strongly about, and I, for one, definitely. So I will be attending the events that we're having this Thursday. We are going to be celebrating the 4th of July with the great fireworks show, and Norwalk never disappoints. This Thursday, we will be at Hollyfield Park, and you know, we hope to see many of you there. And if you don't show up, we truly understand. But just know that our hearts are there with you, and that we feel what's going on, and that we are providing all kinds of safety measures as well. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. Vice Mayor Perez.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. It has been a busy start to the summer. Just a few shout outs to our Norwalk Chamber of Commerce. They held their annual installation, 102 years, if I recall. Congratulations to outgoing and incoming president, Mr. Jason Perez. Thank you so much. And to all of the volunteers and businesses that really make our chamber so solid, especially for events like Coffee and Conversation here in our city. I also attended a legislative committee meeting to hear some of the bills that are being passed in Sacramento that we then here in the city of Norwalk would have to implement. And I've already started to pass some of those down to staff, so that way they can see how and when any changes may be coming that would directly affect here in the city of Norwalk. I did attend my board meeting for Coast Plaza Hospital. They, like all other medical offices and hospitals, they are really, really looking for nurse professionals. So if you know anybody that is out there and is a certified nurse or a practitioner looking for employment, please reach out. All of our healthcare and offices, hospitals, etc., really need some help. So if you know anybody, please shoot them their way. I attended our Los Angeles County Committee of Regional Homeless Initiatives. We talked about how we're going to really be progressing through Measure A. I've worked with Gabby and with Robert to get some of that information over to you, so how we can expect that next round of funding coming towards the city of Norwalk. We do have, it's newsletter time, so the Norwalk Now went out to your houses. We have the social services newsletter here. Every event that is going on in the city is either in a newsletter or it is being published on our social media pages and on our website. So please take a look at that. Today, I had the honor and privilege to take a little visit over to the sports complex and really kick off what is Park and Recreation Month, and you'll hear a little bit about that in a moment. But just want to give a huge shout out to everybody that was at the complex today, our entire team between Public Services, Public Safety, and Park and Recreation. You guys really know how to kick off a celebration. Everything was so welcoming coming into the center today. We strolled over to the Cultural Arts Center, and they were getting ready for the campers and classes coming in. It really is a welcoming group, and it's something that we very much pride ourselves on providing fun and classes for our residents. And there is a special calendar for everything that is happening in July. through the Park and Recreation Department. So take a look at the calendar. You can find it posted outside at the sports complex, at all of our parks, our Cultural Arts Center. It is on our websites, all that kind of stuff. I'm sure they'll talk more about it, but Norwalk is definitely the place to be and to have fun here in the city of Norwalk. Happy 4th of July to all of you. Good luck to all of our nonprofits that have fireworks booths in our city. And let's remember to celebrate with our friends and family safely. That's it, Mayor.
Thank you, Jennifer. Tonight, the City of Norwalk proudly recognizes the month of July as Parks and Recreation Month. The Parks and Recreation Department plays an integral role in our community and in communities across the country. Whereas Parks and Recreation Month promotes health and wellness by supporting the physical and mental well-being of those who live near parks. The programs such as out-of-school activities, youth sports, and environmental education play a critical role in childhood development and quality of life. This month honors the dedicated staff who contribute to the environmental and social well-being of our Norwalk residents. Now, therefore, I, Tony Ayala, Mayor of the City of Norwalk, on behalf of Vice Mayor Jennifer Perez and my fellow council members Rick Ramirez, Margarita El Rios, and Ana Valencia, do hereby proclaim July 2025 as Parks and Recreation Month in the City of Norwalk. Could we have all our recreation staff come forward, and Alan, so we can present you guys this proclamation. Okay, Mr. Gomez, can we have the city manager comments and report, please?
Yes, thank you, Mayor, members of City Council. Tonight, my first comment will be related to the unprecedented times that we are facing in our community today. And we feel for the families who are affected. And just to let the community know that we feel it personally, we have felt it as part of our family, our city family. And so we want to make sure that we relay the gratitude of our public safety first responders here in our city, because we understand that the recent immigration enforcement activity has caused much anxiety for many people. I want you to know that the city of Norwalk remains committed to community safety and support. We also have a very unique city. We have a Norwalk Social Services Department that supports families throughout the year, but we have supported them for over 50 years. We have increased funding for the long-standing free legal aid to help with immigration, housing, and other related issues. Other resources include Know Your Rights information and information about food pantry for those in need. The pantry is free for those who are in need of food. You can visit our norwalk.org/prepare or call 562-929-5544 to learn more about the resources that the city has committed for our community. The city also does not approve of staging activities on city properties. As a reminder, the city does not participate in or get an advance notice of federal immigration actions. Our goal is to make sure residents know their rights, have access to support, and can rely on us for trusted updates. We provide updates on a regular basis through our social media, and we want to make sure that you know that we are paying attention, that we are closely following the activity, and will provide continued resources and information to our residents. The second item is recreation and parks. This is their busy time, their fun time. They have lots of activities for the kids, for teenagers, for young adults, for seniors. They have lots and lots of activities this summer. So come out and join us. We have concerts, we have movie nights, we have dances at social services, we have, you name it. We have lots of activities here in the city. And we showcase them on our video to entice people to attend as well. So with that, join us as much as you can this summer here in the city of Norwalk. Our next item is the DocuPet dog licensing program that I'd like to have our staff speak about. Very unique program. I think one of the unique things about it is that you can get your dog's tag personalized. So I thought that was a very unique aspect of the program. So with that, Ms. Danielle Duarte will present, and this is new for our city, and I want to make sure that all of our residents take part as part of this program.
Thank you, Mr. Gomez. You kind of stole my thunder with that one, I'm just saying. I would just want to go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Danielle. I work in the finance department, and I have been spearheading this implementation for DocuPet, and I'm so excited, not only just as an employee, but also as a dog owner myself. I kind of was enjoying, I think, a little bit too much just because of the personalizations. So let's go ahead and get started. So first, we're going to go ahead, and you can see to register, it's super easy. This is a modern, updated version of the program. Before it was a little outdated. Nowadays, people love their dogs. They want to do extra, and this is giving you the platform to do so. So first, you're going to go to norwalk.org, which you'll see right here. You're going to do the toggle over the how do I, And then afterwards, you're going to select the animal licensing, and then it's going to take you to the next page. Thank you. And then you're going to go ahead and click to renew or pay, apply online, and then next page. So then here, like I said, it's very straightforward, easy for anybody. You're going to go ahead and either select if you are just renewing, or if you've never had a dog in the city and now you're going to go ahead and license it. This is where you're going to go ahead and enter the information. It's going to go ahead and put you in a dashboard, and that dashboard, you're just going to put your information, and then it'll kind of tell you step by step. The benefits, yes, was the personalization, but it's so much more than that. The dashboard in itself gives you the opportunity to customize it. So you want to put your dog's picture, you have that opportunity. If you want to upload your rabies, you can do that. So now everything is just all in one platform. And then this is the customization. And so you can customize it. We do have a basic one that I did bring. You can just do, that one's free for the first time you license your dog. But then on the very bottom, you could see there's so many other selections, and you could customize it according to what your interest is, male or female. But it is also, like I said, the incentive of just having the dog with the tag in itself, so in case the dog gets lost. Next page, please. This one is, I think, the key feature that I actually personally like as a dog owner. The fact that we're implementing it right before 4th of July, especially that's the day when we lose the dogs the most, they get scared. You create a post now, it's 24/7. So as you created your customization page for your dog, you can actually go ahead and customize all the information, and you can put it on this platform and say that your dog's lost or stolen. So instead of always relying on SIACA, which are animal control, you can actually do it yourself and rely on the community, which to me is amazing because your neighbors are the ones that are going to see your dog before SIACA does. So to me, I think that in itself is great. And you can also customize it if your dog has health issues. So, please don't feed my dog carbs, which of course, dogs eat anything, but in all reality, in case they have health issues, if they're diabetic, you could go ahead and relay that. So when they do have the tag and you enter the information, then you'll be able to see all the customization on there. As well as your point of contact, you could put as much as you like to or as little as you'd like to. So this one right here is basically the same, the platform. It gives you the information, it's 24/7. It sends you alerts, so anybody that's on here, it'll send alerts to it via email or phone, however your discretion, of course. And of course, the power in numbers is what it's indicating, because back to the communities who we rely on in order to relay that message. Any questions?
Thank you. This is wonderful. Thank you. It's been a long time coming.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so we're very excited. So some dogs already have the chip and everything. Is it possible to put that information onto is it platform?
Are you referring to like the microchip?
Yes, the microchip information and all that?
Correct, yeah. Okay. So obviously the microchip is crucial as well, but that's usually if you have to take the dog to a vet or SIACA. But on this one, if you use the tag, you could pull it just as yourself. So if you're just taking a walk around the neighborhood and you grab a dog and you see the tag number, you just put it in the system and it's going to give you all of my information for my dog. This way you could contact me directly. So microchip is beneficial.
Right.
But I feel like this one is
a
vital.
Secondary safety.
Right. Microchip is in case the tag is lost, which obviously could happen because, depending on the circumstances, the dog's getting away. It could be a great source, but I feel like, as long as they have the tag, then it's resourceful.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, of course. Any other questions?
Mayor, I have one question.
Of course.
Danielle, this is a great program. We got a little snippet of it during our budget presentations. So thank you for that. I do know, I think we have started to roll it out to a few of our dog and pet owners, correct?
That is correct, yes.
Are we planning on putting something, a video, how-to, et cetera, on our social media pages? So that way, if, it's out there, it's live, and they can see some more information on it.
Yes, we are definitely going to be doing that. We just went live June 16th, so it's obviously very new. We do have a lot of customers that just are getting their information for the renewals. We are obviously going to be partaking in the booth for the 3rd as well. We're trying to advertise it as much as we can, but yes, we will definitely make sure that we go ahead and do like a how-to.
Wonderful. And maybe, I don't know if this is possible, but I know Alan has some great tablets. Maybe we can look at setting up, utilizing some of those tablets at the booth on the 3rd to maybe do a demo.
We're already ahead of you. We have 2.
Great.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Of course. Absolutely. Also, just a side note, cats can be registered as well. So they're obviously not required for a license for the state of California. However, it's still a great source to have just in case for lost cats as well.
Does it interface with SIACA's, at all?
Well, SIACA is actually, it's not through SIACA. We use them as well, but no, it's not. They have access to it, but it's not necessarily with them.
It's a different type.
Correct. It's a different platform, yes.
Server. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, of course.
Question, Danielle.
Yes.
You mentioned cats. Is that free of charge, or that
is free of charge?
Free
yes.
of charge? Okay.
Yes. I know there's another added bonus now that there's a license as well. You could print it on your own as well. So instead of having to come into the office and get it printed, you have access on your phone or on your desktop. Any other questions? Perfect. Thank you for your time.
We also include our furry friends in our operations. So the next item that we have is the biweekly video review. And this is, again, just a taste of what we do in Norwalk. And please join us in all our events that we have here for you. With that, we're going to see this biweekly review video.
The Community Resource Center in Norwalk hosted a back-to-school resources fair on June 20th, where they distributed over 1,100 free backpacks to students. Visit the Resource Center to access free in-person classes and services designed to help you stay active, healthy, and informed. On June 21st, the Hargett House Museum hosted an ice cream social for the community. After a guided tour of the historic house, residents enjoyed a summer afternoon filled with games, arts and crafts, and of course, ice cream. Be sure to visit the Hargett House for the next exciting summer event. The Norwalk Senior Center held a paint and sip workshop on June 24th. Participants enjoyed this creative class, getting step-by-step directions from an art instructor and sipping delicious lemonade and pineapple juice. Join us next time. The Recreation and Park Services Department hosted a series of community meetings on June 25th and 28th to explore the future of Norwalk Park. The meetings gave the community an opportunity to express their comments and ideas on the park's design plan. Join us at the next meeting on July 17th at 6:30 p.m. at the Norwalk Sports Complex. Families made a splash at the Aquatic Pavilion as the Recreation and Park Services Department hosted a luau night on June 27th. From swim tests to fun activities and daring dives, it was a night of summer fun at the Aquatic Pavilion.
And that concludes my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gomez. Next item is consent calendar. Comments, questions, council?
I'll move it.
And we got a motion second. Roll call, please.
Councilmembers Ramirez, Rios,
Aye.
Valencia,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Perez,
Aye.
Mayor Ayala.
Aye. Item 8 is appointments. Are there any council appointments to advisory body this evening? Okay. Seeing none, go to item 9. Award of contract, continued economic development consulting services. Staff report, please.
Yes, Mayor, members of the City Council. Tonight, we'd like to do a couple of things. One is to provide you with the ICSC Update Shopping Center Conference that we just attended in May, and accompanied by Cosmont Companies. And we'd like to have you view a presentation from them, and then we will go into the staff report for your consideration. So with that, I will have Alex Hamilton present or introduce our consultants.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. Ken Hira, one of the principals from Cosmont, is here to present the ICSC recap, as well as Fernando Sanchez, who will cover some of the other services that Cosmont provides, has been providing to the city and continues to provide, and I will then cover the contract extension points. So at this point, I would like to turn over to Ken Hira, who will give you an update and recap on the ICSC.
Okay, very good. Can you hear me okay? Mr. Mayor, members of the council, thank you for having us. It's a little bit of a team effort tonight. My colleague Joe Diegas, who you heard from earlier, who's the Senior VP of Cosmont, and Fernando Sanchez, a VP of Cosmont. We're here. I'm Ken Hira, President of Cosmont Companies. So thank you. I'd like to go through a little bit of a few different topics. One main topic is the ICSC update, which we've done pretty much annually, and I assume this works to advance slides. I don't know wherever I need to point it. Okay, thank you. Oops, okay, great. I can't read that, okay. No. Actually, very importantly, I want to start just by way of context. We just came back from ICSC, which is the shopping center conference, as it's been called for, years and years and years, and we've been attending it. But the context of it, I think, starts, if you will, with Cosmont's effort to help the city prepare what's called an Economic Development Opportunity Plan, EDOP. And I think you all have heard of it, but it's something that really started in 2018, so it's been some time, and it meant to be a foundational body of work that analyzed economic development opportunities and nodes within the city. From that, there's a lot of marketing effort that can take place, that has taken place, that's really resulted in some very productive outcomes, which is major projects. And I think we know what those projects are. I can talk a little bit more about it, but the EDOP is a foundational document for the city that started in 2018, and then it had been since updated in 2023. I think the city's proactive efforts at ICSC in doing these kinds of plans and trying to pursue projects, frankly, should be commended. Not every city focuses on economic development. Not every city focuses on marketing opportunities. Not every city is necessarily proactive. Some are, some aren't. And so I think the city of Norwalk has been very active. I think your presence at the ICSC conference, many of you all that attended, I think is very helpful to both promote opportunities as well as get educated, because we're in the education business. 25,000 folks or so went to the Vegas conference recently, but I also want to point out that the preparation began lots and lots of months in advance of that, working with staff, working with all the different stakeholders that were needed in order to try to set productive meetings and get project updates. So there was a tremendous amount of coordination that goes into it every year, preparing marketing material and targeting opportunity sites. It is not the only event. It is not the only thing that I think any city should hang their hat on in terms of economic development. But it's a conference with 25,000 folks that are the highest notch professionals in the industry, and so it's something that's a must, and I think your presence there is generally very, very productive in terms of the outcomes. So our team and the staff collaborated, and we've been on bi-weekly meetings leading up to ICSC. We're typically in communication with each other on a more monthly basis. So we connected with lots of property owners, development partners, developers, hotel flags, brokers, retailers, et cetera. And we got a lot of progress updates as well from existing projects that take a long time, but they're really coming to fruition in the city of Norwalk. So we list out the different 8 representatives that were there and the different projects that we focused on. And I think what's also key, I've said it before, it's what happens in Vegas is really about what happens after Vegas, if you will. So the continued outreach and the collaboration and the updates and the follow-up are really critical. And it's not the only conference of the year. There's another conference, that's in September. But I think we have the attention of a lot of the marketplace in the city of Norwalk. So just for context, this was the EDOP economic node map that was originally created and then since updated in 2023. These are the opportunity sites within those nodes, and it's my understanding, if I think about the different projects that you all have that's coming to fruition, either starting or basically, under construction, if you will, there's probably a project in just about every one of the nodes. So a lot of these opportunity sites, again, I know it takes time, but are coming to fruition. We put together lots of marketing material, of course, really worked very collaboratively with staff. And then we had a pretty robust schedule. The schedule that ICSC Vegas requires lots of pre-planning, lots of walking, and lots of short but very focused meetings that want to then keep the seed planting process going. And that's what I call the Vegas conference. But you can see a lot of representation of different parties that we've met with. And I know that our team and myself personally have been following up since the conference. I've probably had conversations with numerous brokers and developers as a result, including today. So I'd like to, if you don't mind, just for a minute to share with you all also, without an exasperated presentation, but Fernando Sanchez, my colleague, and I put together what we call a market dashboard. And what it is it's market information related to specifically Norwalk and the trade area, and also the comparisons of the city to either other cities or a radius and the counties and the county. So I really wanted Fernando to take a minute, if you don't mind, a minute or two, to just share literally the latest quarterly dashboard that we've been doing for the city as part of our economic development services, frankly, for several years. So Fernando, if I can turn it over to you, if you don't mind, and we can be brief, but does microphone work?
Yes, testing. Can you hear me well? Okay. So, as mentioned, Cosmo's been putting together this market dashboard on a quarterly basis for a couple of years now. And the market dashboard observes demographic and information from Norwalk compared to regional geographies, 5 mile radius, Pioneer Boulevard, Brands, which is indicative of Los Angeles County and the state of California. Additionally, we looked at neighboring cities, Bellflower. So there's a lot of information in these reports, which we won't get into completely here for the sake of time, but what I want to show is that this report really, are you doing better, worse, or the same compared to those neighboring or regional geographies, particularly with respect to demographics, but also with respect to retail, flex. Summarize some of the major changes here by asset quarter compared to the previous quarter. Some of this I'll get into later. So looking at demographics, we looked at the most recent available demographics provided by Esri purposes. The city has almost 100,000 people. Average household incomes in the city are high at 112,000. Norwalk has a high Hispanic population and also high average half, which we also used Placer AI, our mobile data analytics provider that tracks daily movements of data. Here we're comparing at a high level visits by both visitors from outside the city and employees in the city. And
Excuse me, Fernando, for a sec. Every time you pull your mouth away from the mic to look at the screen, you completely cut out and we can't hear you. So you need to keep that microphone out in front of your mouth the whole time, otherwise we lose you. Thank you.
Okay, appreciate it. Thank you. So this is tracking here our mobile data analytics, looking at a high level from visits by both visitors from outside the city and employees in the city, and tracking them post-COVID time, pre-COVID baseline. So what we see here is in COVID-19 pandemic caused a decline in visits to the city, about 60% visits by visitors, and 25% decline by employees. Employee visits have returned to pre-pandemic levels by 2022, and visits by visitors outside the city have averaged about 7% below pandemic levels within the last year. And we, of course, know that visitation is expected to increase. We anticipate it to increase with the transit village. We also looked at general fund tax revenue information from the most recent available year, 2023, and this data is taken from the California Department of Tax and Fee Administration and the State Department of Finance. So comparing the city of Norwalk to the average of across all California cities in 2023, we see that the city has a balanced budget. Percentage of general fund tax revenues received from property tax and sales and use tax is similar to that of all California cities on average. One key area that's lower is hotel TOT, transient occupancy tax. You're about 2% compared to 7% for all California cities, which we may want to consider adding new hotels to the market to capture that additional TOT revenue. Okay, so this slide shows growth in sales tax revenues between 2011 and 2023. Brick and mortar sales tax revenues shown in the city subtotal category, while online sales are allocated from the county pool. Key takeaway from this is the importance of online e-commerce sales. It's grown significantly in that 12-year time period, grown by almost 200%. And looking at the, the compounded annual growth rate, in brick and mortar sales about 4%, compared to online sales at about 9%. We also analyzed retail sales revenues by category and how they account for total retail sales to the tune of about $1.2 billion in sales in 2023. Largest growing categories within that 8-year period examined were motor vehicles, building materials, general merchandise stores, including your Targets and your Costco, and restaurants and bars, which is highlighting that shift towards experiential retail. And the largest categories in terms of total share from the most recent available year was general merchandise at 26%, motor vehicles 19%, restaurants and bars 15%, and gas stations. So now we're getting into the asset class comparisons in the report, and I'd like to touch primarily on retail, industrial, and multifamily. So retail vacancy is currently at 7.8%, which is higher than regional geographies, higher than most comparison cities, similar to Bellflower, but higher than Downey and La Mirada. Cerritos is actually higher. And there are pockets of vacancy throughout the city, which you'll see on the right-hand side of that slide, including the Food for Less, the Bank of America building at Patterson Square, and the former 99-cent store at the center at Firestone and Studebaker. Now, nearly 1/3 of that vacancy is from that vacant Food for Less on Imperial Highway. And assuming that space gets filled, that'll actually shrink that number from 7.8 down to 5.2%, making it a very stable market. And as for each of these asset classes, by the way, we're comparing it regional geographies as well as comparison cities. Looking at industrial, 4.3%. Industrial market is strong compared to regional geographies and kind of falls in the middle with neighboring cities. Rents are on par with the state and second highest among neighboring cities. So compared to the last quarter, the vacancy did increase from 2.5% to 4.3% due to the vacating of the former Richards packaging facility. However, 4 new leases were signed, and this closing quarter, actually, G4 Trading has moved into that facility, so you'll see that down within the next quarter. Looking at multifamily, vacancy is very low at 2.2%, tied with Downey for the lowest vacancy rate in neighboring cities and lower than the regional geographies. Market rents per square foot are second highest among neighboring cities at 2.64 per square foot, only behind Cerritos. And low vacancy, coupled with that state's housing shortage, demonstrates strong demand for multifamily units in the city. According to the SCAG RENA report, about 5,000 units were allocated to Norwalk. And as we know, the planned Chappelle development, along with the proposed units at the Walk and the Norwalk Transit Village, will certainly help meet that increased demand. Now I will pass it back to Ken to discuss our technology and analytics.
Can you guys hear me? Thank you for bearing with us as we get through some information. I'm going to wrap this up. Just keep going here. So, you know, technology is very important in our world in terms of bringing data and data intelligence and market intelligence to the numerous clients that we work for, including Norwalk, the utilization of a variety of technologies. We just wanted to share with you how important it is and how much of a resource it is, and that we leverage those resources. Fernando mentioned Placer AI. I think it's a very, very powerful tool. It's a tool that we have access to. We pay for it, and so we use it. And we wanted to share some examples quickly of where we used different data sources, not only Placer, but also Esri and CoStar, if you will. And so this is just one case study that we had where there was a vacant box. And one of the objectives was to reach out to all the entertainment users that were possible in the universe to fill that box. And was there a fit? So what Placer does, interestingly enough, is it creates a demographic fit score, which means it goes out and searches using artificial intelligence. Placer's basis is obviously mobile data analytics, but it uses AI to understand the demographic fit score of certain retailers to match certain spaces and demographics and trade areas. A cannibalization score, which technically is if one store opens and it takes away sales from itself or its same company, that's an issue. So it's not accretive to their bottom line as a corporation or an entity. And then a relative fit score, which meets some physical criteria, et cetera. So what we ended up with was a whole list of tenants, and this list was much, much longer. Fernando and I worked on this for the city of Watsonville. The list was much, much longer. But we cut this list off at a point where if you look at the very far right, the relative fit score was, say, 100 for a Lucky Strike. And it decreased all the way down to a 14 for Chuck E. Cheese. Well, Chuck E. Cheese wasn't a candidate as much as supposedly Lucky Strike. Now, this is the science behind this process. And quite frankly, I've been the one saying for a long time we have both art and science. I think this is a relationship business. I think the efforts that we make are getting on the phone, making emails, knowing people, leadership positions, doing the outreach that we do. But the science helps us. It's a foundation for the go-forward effort. And I think technology we couldn't sort of live without today. And so anyways, here was the Lucky Strike evaluation for that city. I want to give you a different example, and this was the city of Malibu. Just quickly, post, tragic fires in the Palisades and in Malibu, they have a real question about what the heck's happening with traffic coming in and out of their city. So the graphics here show that there's peak seasons in that city as a coastal community that drives lots of trips in the month of July, peak. And you can see those three mountains there on the left. But what they're very keen on understanding now is what's the impact of the fires? Are people coming back or are they not coming back? And the powerful part of Placer is it's real time. It's like information as of yesterday, not as of 2 months ago, not as of 6 months ago, not as of a year ago. And we have a lot of data that Fernando and I have worked on, unfortunately, that lags. We used to do sales tax leakage or void analysis, leakage analyses in the good old days. We used to do sales tax evaluation. Some of that information was a year plus old. Even the city revenues, Fernando, in our pie chart, at some point was dating back like 3-4 years. So we like the notion that we can get real-time information. And that was part of the point of what we're sharing with you. There's 13 million visitors that come to Malibu, 4.3 million individuals, and they come repeat times. They have $180,000 of average household income. We can tell a lot by using this powerful tool of mobile data analytics. So I wanted to share that with you. Here's a heat map of where people are coming from in that example. And then this to me was one of the most phenomenal outputs, and that is how many visitors locally go to very specific locations. We picked these locations, and you can make a list of 100 locations if you'd like. And it says that a couple thousand people go to the restaurant Nobu that are local, and 23,000 go there from out of the area. That tells them that the out of the area patrons are super important to keeping certain businesses alive. This is just one example. And we just wanted to share how important the mobile data analytics is. Here's a map of a void analysis, if you will, or a locational analysis that I think we use. Was it Esri, Fernando? And it just mapped out all of the different logos for different categories, grocers and restaurants, to try to understand, is there a hole? Is there a donut hole? Is there a void? This happens to be for the city of Lomita. And then, really interestingly enough, I wanted to look at this real quick, very quick. We spent a tremendous amount of time, I just want you to know, with the marketing team for The Walk, which is basically Prime Store's broker. And there is a 3-page, 4-page memo that ended up identifying tenant names and categories. And they knew that we had a lot of demographic and market information. We collaborated. And their marketing material, as a result of it, ends up not only sourcing us, but trying its best to use the information to the advantage of marketing for a major project here in Norwalk. So there's a lot of collaboration that we're doing. This was independently. I think we're on the phone with city staff as well, but it was a bit independently working with one of your development partners to try to help the marketing efforts as best as possible. There's an incredible amount of information in there that I just ran into those folks, including one of the Prime Store leasing folks and their broker, and they thought that the information we provided was invaluable. So having said all that, I want to wrap this up. Just by way of all the, Cosmont has 3 companies, quite frankly. We have a services company, a brokerage company, public finance company. We do a lot of things for a lot of folks, but the services here that go way beyond necessarily business attraction or just retail include, besides the EDOP and all the SWOT analyses, the EIFD. I would say what's born out of the EDOP was a list of economic development tools that should be beneficial to the city of Norwalk. And I think the EIFD comes out of that as a result of that EDOP, because it's a tool that has to be in place for cities today. And they have to be partners with the counties. And in LA County, the beauty of it is, the EIFD, is the powerful nature of the partnership with the county is it levers up your capital stack to help you ultimately bond for the potential of paying for infrastructure. That's because the LA County has a policy. And I think it's literally a perfect storm for the city of Norwalk that LA County and the city, they're going to partner together. You have your board set, and the creation of that district captures value. It captures the hundreds of millions of dollars of value that's coming to your city based on projects that were started years and years ago. And they're going to come to fruition, and they're going to hit your tax rolls. So there's a very holistic view from our perspective on how we are helping the city and want to continue help the city. We've done a hotel demand analysis, including pro formas that went with that. You have incredible hotel interest. I mean, they've been saying yes to the city of Norwalk for years. Let's go get some of those deals done. I mean, really, let's get them done. You're lacking in TOT. Let's go get some hotel deals done. I don't have any interest in just writing reports, to be quite frank with you all. I'd like to see things move forward, and I know many of you feel the same way. So there is no lack of passion here on our part to go get things done for you all. So let's go get it done. Grocery studies, retail land use for Tank Farm, looking at supportive housing opportunities in the past, Costco lease. Costco lease came up. There were a couple of appraisals. Quite frankly, we were in the middle of that. Losing Costco is something nobody wants to do. Your Costco is kicking butt. I just drove the whole city today, and I couldn't even get through the intersection. So it's doing real well, my estimation anyways, and I'm working on other Costco things, talking to Costco all the time, fiscal impacts for the Walmart site, different mapping and opportunity site evaluation, some pro forma, focused pro forma work for Transit Village. Certainly been very, very involved in the walk. That was a major negotiation that was complicated. And that project was entitled at a time where it had to be, relative to the Surplus Land Act, if you will. The auto auction lease analysis, ironically, Fernando and I kind of joked. We did that analysis back in 2020, and we went back and looked at it, and that was the basis for some of their rent to try to prove up what they should pay. And they're paying it. So currently, I think there's another lease negotiation that we've also done the analytics for. And I think it seems very important for the Norwalk Auto Auction site. And then lastly, I think Phil is here from Arroyo Group, and Small World is, of course, we're working with him as a sub to put together the Norwalk specific plan. And inherent in that is yet another economic development tool. And that tool, just like the EIFD, it's different, I think will be one of the key things to the Heart of Norwalk specific plan. Help induce development. Because right now, development is not a very easy thing. Just so everybody's really aware, I'm in conversations all week long with developers in cities, and projects are stuck. So we have to figure out ways to use tools. It's business attraction, it's tax increment financing, it's value capture zoning strategies. They're all part of this holistic approach that we're taking with, in the perfect role, all of our city clients. We're definitely taking it with the city of Norwalk. So I think I'll conclude there. Thank you. It's always good to be here. It's always good to work with you guys. And I hope that wasn't too long. Sorry.
No, thank you. It's very informative. Does council have any questions, comments? Margarita.
Thank you for being here today. By the way, I really appreciate you coming and presenting and being available to answer any questions or address comments that we may have. I think this is a very, very important negotiation, relationship, partnership, contractual agreement. Moving forward, as you mentioned, you highlighted a lot of the important actions that the city of Norwalk, in collaboration with Cosmont, has been able to accomplish. I do want to ask, in a couple of sentences, what would you say is Cosmont's main responsibility?
Thank you, Councilwoman Rios. I think at its core, Cosmont Companies is an economic development advisor. And what that means can be a lot of different things to a lot of different cities, because we do a variety of things. Is it market analyses? Is it fiscal analyses? Is it business attraction? Is it economic development tools? There's a whole gamut there. And it's pretty holistic. And interestingly enough, like I was really trying to convey, I think we've done a lot of what our core competencies are for the city of Norwalk, because there's been such a variety of things that have gone on for several years. So I'd say economic development as an advisor. And then the real estate part of this is there's some complicated negotiations that have to take place on different projects. And I think drilling into those and understanding how the private sector works, or how they think, or what the market will bear, and making sure you're guided as a city from our perspective and as a resource to you all, that those public-private projects get properly shaped and they get done in a way where both parties, quote unquote, win and the community wins.
Right. So I know you mentioned, as far as it being a little challenging time right now with development, developers are having some challenges that subsequently we've had to in the city of Norwalk as an unintended consequence, because we have so many projects in the works and our vision for future projects, which we talk about them all the time. And I think for me, I mean, I know that we, so I'm with you when you talk about, you know, let's move. Let's get things done. I'm ready. Let's do it. Just let's get it done. I know it doesn't happen ideally overnight, months, years. This is a process that, you know, we have to all, you know, embark on. But I think it's the identification of that process. And that's why I ask, you know, what your role is, because as an advisor, we need to get some good advice, but not just advice. We also need, as you mentioned, you know, that connection. You know, what else do you bring to the table that the City of Norwalk, our city leadership team, can actually engage with, whether it be another company, another, you know, tools that you mentioned. I know you talked about the Placer AI. Is that something that you've used here in the City of Norwalk?
We have, Fernando showed one of the graphics that was really kind of pretty high level. And it was related to what the trips and traffic patterns of people were doing, or what we were experiencing post-COVID. And it compared it to COVID levels. So that it was a high level analysis, and I want to come back to that. But it showed in two categories: people stopped coming into the city, no surprise, because of the pandemic. And there's two categories of folks that stopped doing that, which is people that work here and people that visit here. The people that visit here are coming to shop or play or experience something, not just work here. The visits came back after COVID, and the workforce has come back to pre-COVID levels. Even though there's a phenomenon going on, which is the work from home phenomenon, which I have a whole analysis, if you will, a quantifiable analysis of what's happening underneath the roofs of each home, meaning that there's so much more going on than just what we used to do. People are working and shopping from their homes, but the comeback of traffic patterns using Placer of the employment base is back to where it was before. The visitors, the other category, are not back to where it was before. So it's a simple graph, but to us, it tells us a lot. The other information, because Placer is a very powerful tool, void analysis, contacts, lists of retailers, if you will, fits, who's growing, all of that we can utilize in a more robust way for you. Mm-hmm. And I'd like to do that. I mean, because we have to pay for that service, and we have sort of renewed our service with them, and we want to utilize all the different modules that they have.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, I mean, I think that as a team, a leadership team, we've done so much outreach that I think, at least for now, we're in a comfortable place where we know what our community is looking for in terms of when we're growing. You know, what's the vision for the future, for our businesses, for housing, to increase our tax revenue, which ultimately supports our programming and services, et cetera. So I think we've done that. What I'm looking for is now really is the deliverables. You know, what is Cosmont going to make happen in this next year? I think that ICSC is great. I've gone to that, and it's definitely an opportunity, you know, that when I can, I do engage with that. But I'd like to see Cosmont more involved. I'd like to see you more than once a year, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, and I think you said that in the past. I've been in this city council chambers more than any other city, number one.
Okay, good. Good to hear.
Number two, I would love to come more than once a year to have this conversation. I would love to do this. What I would love to do is we do these quarterly dashboards, and I know that it's data, but Fernando says he wants to come here every quarter. and share that information with you guys.
I
want to do that.
I can't speak for my colleagues.
Yeah.
But I for one would love that, because I think that
Yeah.
when we're engaging with a business or an advisor, as you are, as Cosmont is, I want to know, what's going on? What are we doing? What do we need to do? Is there something we need to tweak? Are we headed in the right direction? Are we, using our services, to the most, the optimal, purpose? And then the other thing that is really big with me is just staying on top of the trends. Things are moving, things are changing very quickly. And so I want to make sure that we are continuing into the future and still staying innovative, trendy, current, but that we're making things happen is what I'm really looking for. So I hear what you're saying as far as the reports and the data, and that's all fine. I mean, I read through all of that. We all do. But I think sometimes just breaking it down, just give it to us straight. What's going on? What do we need to make happen? And then let's just do it.
I think it's what you said, 100% agreed with. It makes perfect sense.
Thank you.
I have some.
Thanks, Margarita. Anybody else?
Yeah, Tony, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ken. It's always a pleasure to see you bringing this vital information to our community. As my colleague mentioned, this data is it's constantly changing, right? Based on economics, based on current events, the market trend, and I'm glad that we have a company that's able to analyze the data as it's coming through periodically, right? Not just once a year, not just quarterly. Things can change overnight. And we've seen you in action at ICSC. We've all accompanied you to the various meetings and discussions with potential developers. I was a little disappointed this round, not based on anything that you did, but I think pre-planning where we were marketing properties that weren't even ours or we didn't have site control over. So, if we're going to go to a place like that to make something happen, we make sure that we own the property, we have site control. Because basically what we're doing is we're carrying the financial burden of these property owners and these properties to doing their analysis, their homework, right, on the backs of our taxpayers. That was a concern for me. But I get it. We need to have that data to present to those potential developers, people coming into our city, that we are a viable community to support whatever business plans to be established here. With your partnership with the Prime Store, we're hoping to see great things happen here at the Walk. We're hoping to have great things happen on Front Street, and then with your input and technical advice to the Transit Village project, with the hotel chain possibly coming in and giving them their market analysis. So we have a lot more work to do in our community, but it's going to be based on economics and trends and how do we get ahead of that? Because we have to compare apples and apples, so to speak, with different communities. You showed slides in Malibu, and it's whole different demographics, whole different, we get that part, right? Our concern is here in Norwalk, and I think we're getting there, but it's going to take a while. And the reason why you're here today is we tabled this item from the last meeting so that we could have this dialogue and discussion with you. Because I just don't believe in rubber stamping a contract that's going to be about $300,000 over the next 3 years, right?
Yeah, and I couldn't agree with you more. And I was unavailable last time. And by the way, I apologize that I wasn't here, but I was not available anyways.
No worries.
My plan was to come here on July 1st. I want you guys to know it isn't like I was sitting at home on my couch.
No worries. We know.
If I was working until about 11 p.m.
For sure.
But I am so glad to be here. And this is a much better, this is a discussion. This is a relationship. This is and you can hear from me, I want to get things done and help you all as best as we can. So thank you. And I agree. I think we should be here in this conversation for this type of discussion, for this type of decision.
And I'm not quite sure if I can recall, there was some data you presented tonight that wasn't available the last meeting, and I think it was the additional services, and I may have missed it, and you guys can correct me if I did, but when you listed those additional services with providing data for lease agreements for Acquire Corp, Costco, that's important, right? Because we want to make sure that we're getting the biggest bang for our buck when it comes to tax revenue, right? So I'm glad that that was presented tonight. Question I have for you is what would it cost for Cosmont Services to continue to provide services for the year? I'm trying to break this down in yearly rather than a 3-year commitment. If it's doable, because I know there's overhead, there's costs. You just said you just renewed your subscription to the data and the modules, and I know that's expensive.
Right. I think what is either in the staff report or what's part of the item is it's a up to 100,000 per year. So I think that's really the nature of it. And I will say that 3 years ago, we didn't use the full amount in that year, which is another interesting point, by the way. I want to come back to that. The second year, this is the last 3 years, right? The second year, we didn't use all of it. In fact, we used a decent amount less. This year, we used all of it. And the reason is, the first year, the reason it was more robust is because we updated the EDOP. Let's use years. It was 2023 fiscal year. And we updated the EDOP, which was a heavy lift compared to the 5 years prior. And so that kind of absorbed a lot of that. All the different special projects and the analyses, they kind of come and go, and sometimes we're going to get busier, and sometimes it's not going to be as busy. That second year just didn't have all of that craziness, and all of those major things that went on. We still went to ICSC. We still did all the things that we said. We did quarterly dashboards. And this past year, the reason I think why there was such a heavy lift and we actually came to the full use of the budget as of yesterday, June 30th, is because of the EIFD. So it's Joe's fault. And the thing about the EIFD is the formation of it is traversing 2 fiscal years in terms of there's more work to do there. So part of what happens July 1st starting today is that contract is going to get, again, utilized by our whole team, so to speak, including EIFD.
Yeah, great that you mentioned. I don't mean to cut you off, but that was my last question, is that we just witnessed all tonight the historical EIFD commissioner committee take place tonight, right? So my question, and I saw that you guys were part of the presentation, that these services will definitely carry over into that, correct?
100%. They are starting today, even though it went through June 30th, if you were to approve the contract, if you don't, then we're working for free tonight. But if you approve the contract, the EIFD is midstream, if you will.
Yeah, because I know the EIFD is going to take off, right? We've already talked about it on many occasions on establishing these financial districts, so to speak, to maximize our property tax and what have you with the county, matching dollar for dollar. And I think that's going to be beneficial, that if we enter in this contract agreement, that it covers both. Because usually consultants will say, well, no, we're going to have to do a separate contract for EIFD, and then we're going to have to do a separate contract for the analysis of your retail industry and the economics. So I wanted to make sure that was clear.
It's really kind of a comprehensive scope of work.
So we'll probably get a big bang for our buck then.
I hope so. I think we're trying to do the right thing by implementing the tools that really should inure to the benefit of your city and your community. The EIFDs, these tax increment financing districts, are getting created up and down the state. There's over 30. And since redevelopment went away, 12, 13 years ago, it was a slow process to get EIFDs back in the vernacular for cities. But cities started to take off with realizing it's an infrastructure tool, it's a value capture tool, and the county partnerships. And LA County has a policy, as I mentioned earlier, not every county does. Not every county necessarily sees the same way. So it's a very powerful tool. We think we just submitted on another EIFD to the county, and they want a green light the utilization of that tool. So I think it'll really work to your benefit.
Thank you, Ken. No further questions, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you, Ken.
Can I add a few comments?
Sure, go ahead.
Ken, thank you for coming out tonight. Joe, Fernando, thank you for your comments and your presentations. Year over year, since we have been in contract with you guys, you do come and give us the data at this presentation when we're renewing. We look at the vacancy rates. We look at the square footage rates around our cities comparable to what we are doing. So I do believe you are not just a representative for us at ICSC, especially more so this year than anything. We looked at the hotel needs assessment. We really have been looking at the EIFD like Rick had just talked about. You talked about the Costco analysis. I really see your partnership with the city as an extension of our economic development and planning department and a resource. You have licenses and subscriptions to Placer AI for this company and that company that we do not have. And that's data and access to information that we need to make the decisions that we have here, that we do here at the dais. And with partnering with Cosmont on a regular basis, we then have access to those. And you prove that again tonight, as you do each year with those data and those metrics to show us what's going on. So thank you again for continuing to utilize the needs that we do have and to be available to answer the questions that we come up with each year.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay, thank you, Ken. Do we have a motion?
I'll move it.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmembers Ramirez,
Aye.
Rios,
Aye.
Valencia,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Perez,
Aye.
Mayor Ayala.
Aye. Okay, item 11, Heart of Norwalk specific.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ken. It's always a pleasure to see you.
Mayor, members of the City Council, as you may recall, we have been working on the Heart of Norwalk for many years, several years. And as you may recall as well, we had about 25 community members who designed a heart when we first began this process. And we wanted to be before you tonight to bring a refresher of this item, because we are currently in the outreach, last part of the outreach part of the EIR. So to be expected in October, we will come to you for a vote approval of this specific plan. So this is the cumulative effect of years of outreach, years of looking at the boundary of the Heart of Norwalk. So with that, tonight we have Carlos Rojas, our senior planner, who will present. And when you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Gomez. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council. Tonight, staff is proud to present to City Council an update of the Heart of Norwalk specific plan. As you know, this plan has been years in the making, with the visioning plan starting in 2020. For tonight's presentation, our consultant Phil Burns with the Arroyo Group will be providing you with an update and summary of the specific plan. After his presentation, staff will go over the next steps in the process. With that, I'll turn it over to Phil to start his presentation. Phil?
Thank you so much, Carlos. Mayor Ayala, council members, pleasure to be with you again this evening to discuss the Heart of Norwalk. And it is very good to finally have a draft specific plan out for public review for all the fine citizens of the city to take a look at and provide comment on. As the speakers before have mentioned, it has taken us some time to get here, but we have a document that I think is very robust and sets the city up very well for the future. Today, I'm going to be overviewing the major components of the plan. I'm going to be providing a bit of an update from the last time I was before you in February of last year. And then we are going to have a second study session, I believe, when we're going to talk more about implementation. I wish I had scheduled it the wrong way so that we could have talked this day when Cosmon is also here to talk about implementation. But maybe we can get into that a little bit today as well. So you'll recall, sorry. All right, next slide, please. Thank you. So you'll recall that the heart of Norwalk is, of course, located along the Firestone Corridor and San Antonio Corridor. The composition of how we've broken up this large area is into 3 districts and 3 corridors, which we presented to you about last time. We have the Front Street Historic District, of course, the revitalized Historic Main Street and Entertainment District. We have the Town Square District near the 5 Points intersection. We have the Triangle District, a walkable urban living district. And then they're connected by the Firestone Corridor, which will undergo a major transformation to become a signature boulevard for the city. The San Antonio Corridor, which will link Town Square with Front Street, and of course the Walk and the Civic Center here. And then finally the Railway Corridor Trail. So the plan is organized with different chapters that correspond to each of these districts and corridors. So you can read a particular chapter to figure out the vision, the kind of design. Oh, sorry. Yes. Thank you. The design for the public realm, that would be the streetscapes and plazas and public spaces. And then finally, the zoning regulations that implement that vision. All right, so I'll take you through each of the districts and corridors, each of the chapters of the plan. We'll review that. So starting with Front Street, of course, we know what it looks like today, and we know what our vision is, right? To really see this become an entertainment area, different feel from what we'll have at the Walk, different feel from what we'll have in other places of the city. This is intended as a place for more local, unique businesses, for a wide variety of ages, including nightlife, to be here, and in a historic Main Street type environment. So in terms of the way that we would modify the street itself, the street changes from a 2-way street into a 1-way street with diagonal parking on the south side. What that does is it frees up more space for us to extend out the sidewalk on the north side, create lots of space for outdoor dining, and also create spaces on the south side for additional places for people to hang out and be in public space. We also looked at a concept that would completely remove vehicular traffic from Front Street. And although we don't think that's the right move necessarily today, we do think that over time, and if Front Street becomes very successful, you could eventually move into that kind of environment where you have all of your driving and parking off the street in outside structures. So the district around Front Street would involve residential being built around it, right, to provide the people who will patronize the businesses. Also, not shown here, but a critical element of the plan as well is for a parking structure in this area. We are cognizant that that will be needed once the area is successful. So the zoning that implements the Front Street district, this is one of the only areas where you will see that the zoning does not permit residential use along Front Street itself. We really want to keep that commercial environment. However, on the back sides of the blocks on Firestone, for example, you would see residential permitted. This is an area where we want a concentration of people, right? We do want activity there, and that means increasing densities and heights, not to an extreme level, but you can see there 60 units an acre, 4 stories along Firestone, 80 units an acre, 5 stories at the corner of Firestone and San Antonio. Moving now to the Town Square District, looking at the 5 Points intersection. Today, And in the future, of course, the big move here is really to extend that plaza out into the intersection to close off the southbound access along San Antonio and instead reroute traffic along Orange Street. Now, I think this won't be necessarily one of the first things that happens in this plan. It might be a little bit further down the line. But when you do it, we think that there will be great benefits. And this slide really here discusses what that new park could be at the center of this district, serving, of course, all the dense housing that's already there, as well as new uses in the area, and how actually traffic flow will be improved because we're simplifying this intersection. We're turning it from a 5-way intersection where the light needs to change in 3 phases into a regular intersection where there's only 2 phases. So actually traffic delay goes down. The zoning that implements the town square district, you can see the reds and the blues. The red there represents areas where commercial uses are required. Residential is permitted, right, on upper floors, but commercial is required. It's got to be mixed use or 100% commercial. In the blue, you'll see areas where you can build commercial, you can build residential, whatever, the applicant, the property owner wants to produce. And then finally, on the town square itself, we have a special kind of requirement for that property. Because it is so unique and because plans for development at this point are very uncertain for that, there's a stipulation that any development there would need to go through a development agreement. Right? So it would need to come to this council, and the council would need to approve what specifically would go there. Moving over to the Triangle District, this is the triangle bounded by Firestone, Imperial, and Pioneer. And so changing it from what it is today into a walkable, a green district for urban living. It's not very green today, but this could be, but the plan really outlines and creates regulations that will turn it into a green area. What the different cross sections that you see here on this slide are examples of how the plan requires that when a developer builds on a property where we want to see, for example, a walking path going through that, cutting up some of the huge blocks there, they're required to install that walking path along their property. So we're making sure that as this area develops, it's going to develop in a green way, in an interconnected way. Of course, we're also recommending within this plan that Metro look at establishing the new C line station whenever they do extend it to the Metrolink station, that they route it underground and that they establish a station in the vicinity of Firestone and Woods, which would then become really the hub for this district, where you can see commercial uses being planned for in this area, public plazas as well. We'll talk about that in the next session. So the zoning for this area is generally established at 30 units per acre and 3 to 4 story height limits there, 3 to 5 stories, I believe. The properties here, as well as all of the larger properties within the Heart of Norwalk specific plan, are also eligible for what is called the Development Opportunity Reserve. And so this is one of the value capture zoning strategies that Ken was just mentioning. It basically says that these areas will be zoned at 30 units an acre, and a developer can come in and build that. But you can also propose a development that is denser than that. And when they do that, they will need to come to this council and present a plan for the public benefits that they would be providing in exchange for receiving the extra density, such as affordable housing, such as public open space, such as particular community amenities that the community desires greatly. All right, so Firestone Corridor now, this is what Firestone looks like today and the future vision. It's really making it a signature kind of green median and a green boulevard all the way up and down the street. In the northern section, we add that median, we add bicycle facilities without having to remove lanes. That's northwest of Pioneer. South of Pioneer, all the way down to Bloomfield, an area that has seen its traffic numbers go down in recent years, and that's an area where the 2 lanes will be reduced to 1 lane in each direction, and that will create a calmer environment for residential, as well as other uses along the street. The zoning, you can see, is generally the blue color here, which is the flexible residential or commercial color. We've also got some areas along Front Street, not the historic part of Front Street, but the other parts of Front Street, where the zoning will continue to allow the industrial, at least the light industrial businesses, which are currently there, and it would only allow residential with a conditional use permit. San Antonio corridor, see what that looks like today and the future vision. Similar to Firestone, really trying to make that a much calmer street, an environment that's suitable for people to live, to walk, to shopping, etc. along it, and got the big bike connection, which is really important, right? Connecting this location with Front Street, with Town Square. They're not too far. They're actually a nice, easy biking distance, allowing those districts to be connected in that way. In general, the zoning here requires retail in some spots. Other places is more flexible for 100% residential or commercial. Generally, though, lower scaled in this area. So you see 40 units an acre, 3 stories maximum along the areas south of Foster. All right, finally, the railway corridor, kind of a view of it there. As we know, this is, of course, owned by the railroad and will require a lot of coordination to make this happen, but there's certainly space for it, space for creating a walking and biking and skateboarding and every other active mode of transportation path all along the railway from Rosecrans all the way out to the San Gabriel River, about a 3-mile distance. And then you do have some larger properties as well along this railway corridor, and so which include the Saddleback Motel, include the auto auction site, include the large vacant industrial area near Pioneer and Foster. And so these areas, we also see the zoning updated to allow for development to happen. All right, so go over the impacts briefly. Let's talk about parking and traffic, always very important topics to discuss. So first, talk about parking. We know, of course, that parking is a major issue in the city, something that residents are very concerned about. As we surveyed parking occupancy in the city, we saw that residential streets within the heart of Norwalk area have very, very high parking occupancy. Right? There's very few spaces that are available there at nighttime for residents. However, we don't see the same thing along the actual commercial corridors themselves. Along Firestone, along San Antonio, for example, those streets do continue to have vacancy in the evening time. And so there is, and so we are recommending here with this specific plan a couple of different things here that are intended to remove or to lessen the extent that parking is a barrier to new development. First, let's talk about the commercial side. So the city did update its parking requirements within the last several years, and we're not proposing any changes to those parking requirements. However, we are establishing or creating a recommendation, rather, that the city create parking and transportation management districts. What would happen within these districts is that developers would have the opportunity or, let's say even it's a retail use and they want to bring a restaurant into that same building that would normally require a lot more parking to happen there. Instead of providing the parking on site, because they may not have the room to do it, they can pay an in lieu fee. The in lieu fee will go into a fund which will fund the city being able to either build a parking structure, acquire a lot and use it for public parking, strike an agreement with an existing property owner to allow public parking at certain times of the day, etc. So this increases flexibility, and it really, and yet it still takes into account, it really will ultimately create that more park once and then walk among a district feel, which you see in so many successful areas. Another important thing that will be critical for the implementation of the plan will be to continue to work on the parking management, particularly in the residential areas. So in those parking permit districts, making sure that those regulations are correct so that there aren't impacts from new development along the commercial corridors on the residential neighborhoods. On the residential side, I'm not going to go through all this, there's a lot of detail here, but on the residential side, I think that we are recommending within the specific plan some lower parking ratios per new residential housing unit. So we have 1 space per unit generally required and less than that for affordable housing. The idea is to incentivize lower cost and more affordable housing. The idea is also to address a lot of the physical constraints that you have around developing denser housing, around developing apartments, condominiums, for example. Those 3 little boxes you see in the top right, that represents a typical site within the heart of Norwalk, not too big. If you build townhouses, that's the first little box there, kind of showing a plan view of townhouses, there's plenty of space there to create 2 spaces per unit, and that's what's typically done in townhouses. However, if you want to get more people housing within that area, you want to turn it into apartments, condominiums, multi-stories, you see that actually the amount of space that we have to accommodate parking is still the same, right? So we can't get very many more parking spaces in, even if we're going to build a lot more units. And so that's a real constraint for us around the development of denser housing. Obviously, welcome your comments on this, but I do want to provide the rationale behind the recommendations that are currently. On the traffic side, there are quite a few changes, as we've discussed, to the traffic patterns within the area. Generally, we see a relatively minimal traffic impact as a result of these changes. A few more seconds of delay at most intersections. But if you look at the LOS, that's the letter grade changes there, you'll see that actually they remain the same in 8 out of 10 intersections. And the 2 intersections in which they do change are actually gotten better because we've improved the circulation at 5 points in the way that I mentioned before, and then at the corner of San Antonio in front, which currently doesn't have a signal light, and through the plan would have a new signal light, which would help traffic circulation there. Okay, so just finally, the zoning procedures and standards are in Appendix A of the specific plan. They include detailed design guidelines and standards to really ensure that new development in Norwalk is of the highest quality. So I won't cover all the topics here, but here's an example. Frontage standards, which is how a development, how the ground floor is right up against the sidewalk, right? We want to create that walkable and green and inviting kind of environment. We don't want the blank walls. We don't want parking right next to the street. We want safe neighborhoods. Here's another example, for example, building modulation and articulation. Finally, I'll just mention in Appendix A, you'll also see regulations around affordable housing and the density bonus and the procedures to implement density bonus in the city. Density bonus is a state program which is available to all developers. I think you all are well aware of it. When developers opt to provide affordable housing within a development, they receive additional density, and they also receive concessions that go along with it. For example, additional height to accommodate that additional density. What we've done in this menu here is just provide some parameters to try to encourage developers, if they do that, to provide for example, to increase the height in a way that's still in keeping with the vision of the area. So generally no more than one story above the maximums which I presented earlier in the presentation. Alrighty, so that concludes my presentation for today, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you. Well, let's, before we have go into questions, comments by
Mayor
council.
Ayala, I just need to finish a couple of more slides just for the next steps. I just want to give the council an idea of where the next steps are and the time frame for the project. I apologize. We have a next slide for next steps as discussed. So just for everyone to keep in mind, the draft environmental impact report, or draft EAR, started in circulation in June 24, 2025, and it will end in August 8, 2025. At the same time, the draft specific plan is also available for public review for the same duration of time. Staff notes that additional outreach will be conducted with property owners within the boundary of the specific plan later this month. Actually, notifications will be going out this week for the property owners within the specific plan. Staff will be reporting back on any feedback received from property owners and be providing a final overview of the specific plan, as Phil mentioned, to council on August 5th. Once the comment period has ended, planning staff in the Arroyo Group will incorporate any final modifications to the specific plan and will start preparing the associated response to comments for the draft EIR. Staff anticipates scheduling the specific plan and the EIR for consideration to the Planning Commission in October 2025 or September, and for the consideration before City Council either the end of October or November 2025. That concludes staff's presentation, and staff and the consultant are available to answer any questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We have speaker cards. I'd like to call up Lisa Vernola Salas first.
Hi, City Council. I've never done this, so I'm new at this. I kind of want to speak on the Heart of Norwalk. Just want to let you know, I kind of heard a little about this. Want to let you know I'm a long-term resident, property owner, business owner. I'm very much close to what you guys want to do with the Heart of Norwalk. I want to let you know I have not been informed about any of this. My property is extremely close to what you want to do with this. And I really want to let you know who's ever giving you advice that they've let us know. They've let us know nothing. I kind of heard that in 21, they've let us know, the business owners. They've let property owners know. They've talked to us. They've talked to us. Nothing. I'm next door to everything you guys are bringing up on Firestone, San Antonio, Front Street. Every bit of my property is touching everything you want to do. I've talked to all my neighbors. None of us have been included in what you want to do. And as a long time, since the day I was born, in those businesses, I don't feel, the city always says, you guys love businesses, you want businesses in the city of Norwalk. We do not, in the area we are, interfere with any residents. Where we're at, our industry, the industries around us, or away from residents. And what you guys want to do, I think is great, but you want to kick out our industries. Every one of us around there are going to get from what we're looking at. I think the part of Front Street you want to do is beautiful. Let's do it. It's the old town part of Front Street. Let's do it. But everything else you want to do, moving on to Firestone, it's crazy. It's not going to happen. And for you and the money you want to spend and what you want to do, taking out the gas stations from what I've seen all your plans, and some of the other properties you want to do, you guys don't own it. I do. It can't be done. It's not going to be done. And I just think it's crazy that all these plans are being made and you've talked to nobody who owns those properties. Nobody's owned those businesses. I just want to tell you it's not fair that we're going this far and we're talking this talk, which is beautiful talk, but you've talked to none of us. And you've brought none of this to any of us before we bring it to the residents and let the residents know of all this great stuff we want to do. Well, we've talked to nobody who owns these properties. If you want to talk to the residents, that's great. Bring this up to them. But let's talk to the people who own the properties first. Let's talk to the businesses who we're going to affect first and let us know what we want to do before we step this step forward and let the people out here know, hey, this is what the city wants to do. Because we're going to get all these residents excited of what we're going to do, but it's not going to happen if they don't have the business or the property owners included. I just think that's kind of excited something's going to happen 20, 30 years down the road, something we don't own as a city. And unless anybody's included in this, they're not going to own it. Just want to let you guys know that. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa.
All right.
Next speaker on item 11 is Brian Tyndall.
Hello, staff. My name is Brian Tyndall. I'm a resident in Norwalk and a native plant expert. I have also become an expert in Norwalk median and parkway landscape design. Landscape design in the city and plant choices are based on best practices at the time, and they are unique for each project and each landscape architect. That is why many of the medians in the city have a different style. In the 60s and 70s, the landscapers chose to concrete much of the medians to save irrigation cost. That choice has increased the temperatures in the city. In the 90s, turf grass was chosen and is now being removed by EEMP grants for water-wise landscaping. The plant palette on this project, which was attachment B, which wasn't mentioned, do not reflect best practices at this time. We now know that native plants are the best choice. Native are described as being here before the Europeans. They evolved here with our climate, rain cycle, insects, and companion plants. These plants require less water, less maintenance, and less chemicals when compared to non-natives. They also look nicer, support local pollinators like the endangered monarch butterfly. This list is a mess. Someone should Google these plants. I have, and it's fountain grass and feather grass are so invasive that they are on the top 100 worst invader list. They are also highly flammable and spread everywhere, choking out other native plants, other plants. Ice plant that you see on the freeways forms a dense mat that chokes out all the sunlight from reaching the soil. Both of them are on this list. 25% of the plants on this list, a quarter of them, are on the California agriculture list for being invasive, noxious weeds that are recommended not to be planted. 5 of the plants on this list are banned in other states. Only 4 of the plants on this proposal are California natives. This list recommends planting crepe myrtle. Crepe myrtles make up 13% of the total urban forest in the city. A diverse urban forest is important in case of loss due to disease. We have 1,800 of those specific trees. That's too many already. Don't plant any more. The agave section of this recommendation recommends planting on 3-foot or 4-foot spacing. I've got a whole bunch here, but there are 2 of them that are 6 feet wide, so don't put them on 3-foot spacing. Foxtail agave and century plant each get 10 feet wide, and Hercules aloe, that is also on this list to be planted at 3-foot spacing, grows 40 feet high and 20 feet wide. Council, please ask staff to review this list and use current best practices, which are native plants, or better yet, establish a planting palette for the entire city for a uniform look.
Thank you, Brian. Next speaker is Daniel Marino. It's the same
Says
topic.
Heart of Norwalk.
Hi. How's everybody doing? I just want to say my name is Daniel. I'm currently a student at Cal Poly Pomona studying landscape architecture. I've lived here all my life, graduated from Norwalk High School. And I also agreed with Brian in the selection and some of the selection that we have for the for this plant list. 3 species of concern, which I don't hold it against the urban planners because it's not their kind of expertise, but 3 of the species are on the California Invasive Plant Council inventory, just for their kind of, just how negative they could impact our local landscape, especially if they were just to kind of make their way onto something like, you know, somebody's shoe or something, make it out into a more open area, and then from there just kind of get established. That would be a pretty big detriment. And it's not like, I get that it's kind of like, oh, this is what's most readily available, but if you don't create the demand for a new kind of I guess, new species that are more in line with what is historically grown here, then how else are we going to be able to see a urban landscape that kind of reflects the historic ecology, especially being where we are in the lower San Gabriel Basin that has seen, lower San Gabriel watershed, where we've seen so much development just because it's so flat. A lot of what has been here previously is gone, and it should be all of our responsibility to think a lot about how we could best move forward to better be in tune with our, I guess, our non-human relatives, our birds, our bees, and our rodents, other rodents that live on this land. And I just don't see it in anybody's best interest to plant any more crepe myrtle, just because it doesn't really grow that big, and it's just so dated, I guess, is what I kind of just feel like. But again, I'm not holding it against the urban planners just because it's not their expertise. But yeah, I would ask that you guys be more intentional about what you go with. Just because you're gonna lock us in for, I don't know how long the streetscape is gonna be, as it will be once this gets implemented. But it's better to kind of not make that bad decision today, or not today, but like in August, and just kind of set us up for, I guess, a better kind of landscape for the next like 10, 15 years. Just because these trees, ideally we would want them to live past 15 years-ish, just because I know that's when they usually die. So I just want us to be a little bit more intentional. Thanks.
Thank you, Daniel. That was our last speaker on this item. Bring it back to council. Is there any questions, comments, council?
I have a comment, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Full of comments tonight. Thank you guys all for coming out and giving input on this Heart of Norwalk. This presentation was a little different from the one we had previous, right? I think the other one was more in depth, had overlays, had renditions. It had a lot more meat and potatoes, I would say.
Yeah, breaking up the presentation into 2 segments, so we'll do more of it on August 5th for the second study session. Today I wanted to focus on the regulation part of it. Last time we did discuss the vision in greater detail and community engagement.
Great, thank you. So having said that, I'm still on the same stance of where I was way back when, which I commend staff and the consultant for putting together an elaborate master plan, I guess a blueprint for what we would see the city to be. Vice Mayor, what do we say? 2054, which like one of the speakers mentioned, it's unrealistic if we don't own those properties and we don't work with them. Like Mr. Cosmat had mentioned, that's where we utilize his services to outreach to those businesses in conjunction with our master plan and our Heart of Norwalk, so that we can see these plans to fruition, right? I made the jest about building a Sim City, right? It's something we conceptually would love to see And I think there has to be a blueprint or a plan to follow. But realistically, is it attainable? We would hope so. But without having all the pieces of the puzzle and the buy-in, we're spending a lot of money, time, and resources on this elaborate plan that may not go anywhere. You know, because of ongoing regulations, the economy, a lot of different factors. I mean, this is a living, breathing idea, right? I guess I would put it that way, that there's a lot of uncertainty. You know, things can change 5 years, 10 years. We could have property owners just hold out for as long as they want, and we never will see this plan to fruition. So having said that, that's my input. I'm still on the stance of great idea, great concept, but will it work? Who knows? I won't be around. I don't think, well, maybe a few of us will be around. Speaking for myself, you know, it's a long ways out, but I would hope that whoever takes our places here on this dais in the future will hopefully give some valuable leadership and input to make it happen. But it only happens if we connect all the pieces of the puzzle together with not only leadership, staff, but also our community, both residential and business, because that's what means a lot to this council, is having a place where we can work, live, and play in Norwalk. That's my comments.
Thank you. Any more?
Thank you, Phil and team, for coming out tonight. It's definitely a different update than what we received a couple months ago. What I would like to see happen in this next 30-day, 45-day period, number one, reach out to those other business owners. We need to have some urgency in those conversations, just to start by sharing the plan. Gauge the interest, have that conversation. And I understand that a lot of this outreach that had happened was all open to residents, you know, et cetera. But some of those business owners aren't residents. They own businesses, so they may not have gotten that information. This is when we need to get out and door knock and have those immediate conversations. The other thing that I would really like to see come back, kind of to ducktail on to what Councilmember Ramirez was saying, there's a lot going on in this plan, and I think we've said this in the past, is we need to be realistic. When you come back in and bring in the next version, you know, in August and or November, whenever you take your comments and bring it back and it comes back to council or even to the Planning Commission, let's have some reality conversations there. And when we look at the different districts that are in this plan, in reality, which ones can we see happening in 3 to 5 years? Which ones can we see happening in 5 to 10 years, et cetera, et cetera? And I know one of the comments you made, Phil, was in regards to changes in current traffic levels at some of these streets. But there also could be changes between now and when the plan, comes to life. So taking a 2-lane highway and changing it to 1 way in each direction may or may not fit in reality with what you're looking at now and what we could be envisioning in 5, 10, 30 years. So I would really like to see some practicality come back to council and share with the Planning Commission as well, to say, look, in these districts, this particular area, we know we can move on this in the next 3 to 5 years, and give us some projections in that aspect. The other thing that I would really encourage staff to look at, there was a lot of bills in the state of California that were passed yesterday and last Friday with the approval of the budget. A lot of them are state mandates that they're not going to take our consideration at all. And these are additional state mandates on top of everything else. Specifically, I know that there were 2 bills that went around housing and development that did not go through the proper legislative process and got approved directly with the budget. So they did not go to the Senate. They did not go to the Assembly for verification. They went straight into the budget and it got approved. So that's AB 130 and AB 609. And those are looking at specific transient orientated developments. They're looking at parking, additional parking restrictions that are now taken away from the cities and mandated to approve based on these bills, and different levels of CEQA reform. So unfortunately, our state is not doing us a favor when it comes to some of these bills. They're taking away our voice and what we know would fit best in our city, and that's going to have a big impact on a lot of the development. So those are my comments, and looking forward to seeing what you hear back from our community, our business owners, and what you guys bring back to us in November. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that presentation. There are a couple of things that I do agree with my colleagues. I just want to say that first before I forget. So the Vice Mayor's comments about let's put our efforts and actions into something that's tangible, something that's feasible. I think we all mentioned that before. And I really hope that our city team, our leadership team, Cosmont team, and the Arroyo group are really listening when it comes to that, because as I said, it's been mentioned before, and I'd like to be able to focus on what's more possible, tangible, sooner. What can we make happen a lot quicker? Because, I know we're talking about 30 years. This is 30 years in the making. And I hope I'll be here in 30 years. I don't know. But if I am, I better be front and center at the ribbon cutting. That's for sure. But so to our city manager, I hope that we, let's kind of focus, bring it in. I don't want to be here a few months again from now and just see the same presentation. We've seen this before. I think when was the first year that we saw this presentation? Was it 2021?
Yeah, it wasn't exactly the same, but
when we started
vision,
talking
yes,
about the
2021.
concept of the Heart of Norwalk, right? That's when we started talking about it. So it's been a couple of years, and I'd like to be able to, let's see what we can make happen sooner rather than later. And I'm actually glad that we have some young adults and our youth here in the chambers today, because this really speaks to their future. I really hope that they're still here, invested in Norwalk, that they stay and love and take care of and continue in our city. So I hope they're paying attention, because this really speaks to their future. The possibilities, really, the benefits, are for them. And that's why I think it's so important that we, our current leadership, really work super, super hard to do the right thing. I know that as far as the presentations, I know that they were being presented at our Front Street Friday events, which was great. I was out there and I would see this particular table and setup well attended by people giving feedback. Alan, I don't know if we plan on having them again or something. I don't know, but I know that there's been an effort to get our community involved, right? But we can always improve upon that. And looking at the feedback, what really caught my attention is because I'm big on sustainability, and quote unquote, the feedback from many of our residents was on sustainability being a big concern. So I was glad to read that in the report. And it also mentioned a suggestion of creating a green network, which addresses, car-free options and health and wellness. So I really hope that whatever project we do decide would best fit for the near future, that we consider that feedback from our community. because for those of you that may not be aware, we actually have a strategic goal number 4, which is to support sustainability and climate resilience throughout the community. So when we talk about landscape, when we talk about building for the future, we are looking at what is sustainable, what is it that we're doing to preserve our carbon footprint, what is it that we're doing to have clean water, clean air, and environmentally responsible build, including landscape. And so for those of you, I just wanted to share that because I know that many of you may not be aware of that. So we're continuing to build upon that, our strategic goal number 4. And for me, it definitely rolls over to any future developments because it's got to be key. It's got to be key to when we develop. We got to look at what those best environmental practices are. We're also working on our urban forest management plan, and that's helping us as a guide. When we talk about landscape and tree planting and removal and native plants, we are talking about that. We've been talking about that, and again, we are working on it diligently to make improvements in those areas. So I just kind of wanted to put that out there because our strategic goals is what guides us, and we are looking to be good partners with our environment. We really, really are. It's very important to me. So I know we're working on it. And that is all I have. Thank you very much.
Okay. Well, I generally agree with my colleagues on this, and they made some they made some really good points. I don't want to belabor them by repeating them, but the only thing I would ask for, Mr. Gomez, is I would like a historical timeline of all the engagements, communication engagements that they have made.
I'm sorry, you want
I want a historical timeline of all communication engagements and with who since 2021. Was it direct mail? Was it presentation like, Margaret is saying, was it at a concert, something? Because I want to see if it's a concert type thing, or is it something that's very passive, or it maybe was direct mail, which isn't. But I want to have some confidence, given what our planning commissioner said. I want to have some confidence that this information is getting out to the right people. And so anyway, historical timeline since 2021.
Was it ever on?
Yeah, it was.
It was. Yeah.
We keep putting that information out so that it's on the forefront.
Let's see how they've been doing it. And then if there's something there that we think is missing and needs to be done in addition to, then we'll have something to work off of, right? Okay. Well, did you have anything, Anna?
I just want to echo those comments and not belabor as well, but it is concerning that some of the businesses right then and there, haven't been notified. So thank you, Lisa, for bringing us that information. And I know that we're going to take some action and do the right thing. And but it does look, in theory, like a really great plan, and I look forward to that. Sure. But we do have to, dot those I's and cross those T's and do all these specifics before we get there. Thank you.
I agree. Okay, then. This is going to be a receive and file, and which will lead us into oral communications.
And Mr. Mayor, and before you start the public comment portion, I'd like to make an announcement because we kind of saw it during the last presentation portion, and it's important to note there are many members of the audience, I believe, here tonight who are attending their city council meeting for the first time. And as a reminder, this is a business meeting of the city council. The city council appreciates the views and perspectives on the item that I believe is going to be discussed that's affecting not only our city, but many neighboring cities. Another couple of points that's important to note. Number one is the city and the city council has not endorsed or participated in any ICE or federal government activities. No ICE activities have been allowed or permitted on city property or have involved city personnel. As I mentioned, it is a business meeting, and while the city council appreciates you being here tonight, it's important to note that in attending tonight's public meeting, no one will be allowed to engage in disorderly or boisterous conduct. That includes, and is not limited to, applauding, whistling, booing, or making any other loud or interrupting comments or activities. And no person is allowed to disrupt, disturb, or otherwise impede the orderly conduct of the meeting. City Council is eager to hear your comments, but please, we'd ask that you maintain proper decorum at tonight's business meeting. And with that, Mr. Mayor, I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Glassman. What I'll do is we have a few cards here, so I'm going to do is I'm going to call up. I will call up a speaker, and then I will call up the second speaker, so that person's ready to go immediately after the first.
And Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry, one more comment I forgot to mention is that as speakers come up and if they address the council, this is a time for public comment. It's not going to be a debate going on between the council and the public. Again, it would not be necessarily a proper time for a response from the city council. So you have your opportunity, your 3 minutes to address the city council, and the mayor is going to call your name.
Thank you. First speaker is, looks like URORIS. That sound familiar? Anybody? Okay, and the next one up after him is Art.
Hello. I'm here to talk about the ongoing ICE raids that we all know have been happening. And I'm here to speak. I know that a lot of people are here to talk about business, as you said earlier, but I'm here to speak because there's other people in our communities that are scared and afraid, and they don't even know about city council meetings to be able to voice those concerns. I want to start off with some numbers. ICE funding going from 10 billion to 100 billion off of the bill that just passed the Senate. That's funding up until 2029, 45 billion going to detention services, 14 billion going to deportation operations, 10,000 new ICE agents, which is over double. So this is on into 2029. So this is going to be something that our community has to deal with for the foreseeable future. So we see in other cities, Montebello has just recently passed a $100,000 fund to support families financially. And Santa Ana similarly has proposed a $1 million fund to support families for rent, utilities, food, legal assistance. And they have also proposed an ordinance for law enforcement officers in their city to have to identify themselves and prohibit the wearing of masks when they interact with the public. I know that you guys have just recently announced a legal fund. There's no, from what I've seen, no information on how much you've done in that regards, how much is in that fund, but there's more that can be done. And we need to be proactive with that when we see that there's a bill coming that's gonna make ICE a much, much stronger presence. 2 people in Philadelphia were arrested for impersonating ICE officers. 1 man in North Carolina was arrested for impersonating an ICE officer, sexually assaulting a woman and threatening her with deportation. So this goes to show that there's consequences for allowing agents to come into our cities unidentified in unmarked cars, sometimes without any law enforcement gear or anything to identify them. And we just have to take them at their word. And when the city shows that they're not doing anything to be concerned about that, and they're in law enforcement officers in our city aren't doing anything to stop any of that. So that gives people the green light to copy those things. And that puts other people in danger. That puts people in fear. And you guys were talking about going to outreach for businesses and stuff. We've been doing outreach in the community for businesses, but people who are scared, you know what I mean? Where's the outreach for that? I mean, you're doing outreach for some project about some businesses I mean, I'd like to see some outreach for people who are being impacted by what's going on right now, because people are scared right now, and we need to see better leadership in that regard.
Art?
Good evening. You guys talk about how this is a business meeting, and I cannot think of something that is more detrimental to business than what ICE is doing in our community right now. So it is relevant, even though you guys want to separate it. But I just want to start by saying that in Delaware, 2 men wearing ICE vests pulled over and robbed a victim at gunpoint. The 2 impersonators then struck the victim before fleeing the scene. In South Carolina, a man impersonating ICE detained a group of Latino men. He was recorded saying, "You all got caught. Where are you from, Mexico? You from Mexico? You going to Mexico?" At one point in the interaction, the driver is explaining what's happening to a friend over the phone in Spanish. The impersonator then says, "Now don't be speaking that pig Latin in my effing country," as he knocks the phone out of the driver's hand. In Philadelphia, a man impersonating an ICE agent entered a business where he zip-tied a woman and made out with $1,000. Just down the street in Huntington Park, the police apprehended a man impersonating Customs and Border Protection. He had guns in his vehicle. In Brooklyn, a man impersonating ICE sexually assaulted a woman. In Minnesota, a man impersonating a law enforcement officer assassinated 2 politicians. This is a short list showcasing the obvious problem of how ICE has been operating in LA County. What are residents of Norwalk to do when unidentified masked individuals with guns approach them? This American Gestapo are trampling all over our constitutional protections, and you must understand that no one, regardless of legal status, is safe. And they are here conducting raids in Norwalk. A fruit vendor was kidnapped by St. John of God, the church. There's a picture circulating social media of a community member that was kidnapped in the Northgate parking lot in hopes that someone in Norwalk could identify him. I suspect the activity will continue to increase. I do appreciate the recent statement the city has put out in regards to the ICE raids and the resources offered on the city website, but I am asking the city council to go a bit further. Montebello launched a $100,000 relief fund for families impacted by the ICE raids. They are also reporting ICE activity to their residents. Huntington Park approved a resolution to identify federal agents operating within the city. I hope you can continue working with our community to mitigate the incoming chaos that ICE is bringing to Norwalk. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next speaker is Andrew Gutierrez, and after Andrew Gutierrez, it's Jesse Flores.
Hello, I'm here to express how ashamed I am at the lack of support, communication, and any type of assistance from the city for the residents living under the terror of kidnappings from these armed agents. Our friends, family, and neighbors have been under threat for several weeks now, and this city has been silent. Other cities have alerted their residents to any federal activity and are providing material support for the residents who may need relief due to being impacted by these raids. Montebello has pledged $100,000 for the residents affected by immigration raids. Huntington Park has directed their police department to make sure masked immigration agents operating the city are identified. These and many other cities have made it known clearly that ICE is not welcome in their communities and have come out with strong statements as such. These violent actions hurt their people. Norwalk wants to be a connected community, but you're leaving your residents out to dry and ignoring those who do so much for our community and make it what it is. It took several weeks to finally respond with vague promises for more funding towards legal services and pointing to a single section on your emergency preparedness site only available in English. Do better. I'm glad you are aware of the activity going on. We have been aware since they started disappearing people from their jobs, hardworking people who are only trying to make ends meet for their family. Children are aware when their parents don't come home after leaving in the morning looking for work. Parents are aware when they have to make the choice between staying at home out of fear it may be the last time they see the children or going out and trying to provide for their family. You are right. There is a lot of fear and uncertainty. So take the steps that are needed to help the people feel safer. So many other cities are rightfully canceling or postponing their 4th of July events to protect their residents, keep them safe, and devote their resources to actually help them. Norwalk is pressing on with your heads in the sand, ignoring all those in community who do not feel free to attend safely. Stand up for your residents. Make it clear that ICE is not welcome here.
Chris Garcia. Oh, wait a minute. Jesse Florison, Chris Garcia.
Hello, hello. It's really low. Well, I'm here to express my concerns with everything going on with immigration enforcement activities. I thank the city for their recent statement on the immigration activities and quote the community preparedness resources. I appreciate the timeliness of the resources, and I think it's a good first step. However, I urge the city to do more. With community members being taken away without due process, and so much, and by masked men and unidentified cars, I think there's a lot more that we can do. Many of our community members have been living in fear every day, choosing to forgo grocery shopping, working, just doing everyday errands. And, I think it has a deep impact, not only on just their everyday lives, but also the economy. Really just folks are, customers are finding themselves in fear of going to the store, but also workers are being taken away from the workplaces, which affects, businesses. And so, and there's also, in addition to economic concerns, there's also safety concerns. Really, there's a hesitancy to, question if any of the folks in mass and unidentified cars are truly ICE. And so really there's so much uncertainty and questions. And so I think with that, it really brings this atmosphere of fear and unsafety in the environment. And just also not only folks that are, undocumented, but also folks that think that they'll be perceived as undocumented, since there's been reports of racial profiling amongst folks who have been taken away. So with these economic and safety concerns in mind, I ask that the city expand on its response towards ICE in the following ways. First, don't allow ICE to stage activities on city properties. Earlier in June, ICE had staged their vehicles and planning at Whittier Library and Public Library. So let's make sure ICE doesn't do that in our city. The County of LA Board of Supervisors passed a similar motion to not allow ICE to stage activities in county properties. So I think we can base our motion on that. Second, provide know your rights info widely at city properties and online. So not just on a single social media post, but on printed materials on the Norwalk Transit Services buses or on city property facilities. Third, have our social services department provide food delivery service and legal services. It's great to see that there's an existing food pantry, but if it could be accompanied by delivery, since some folks are afraid of leaving their homes, that'd be great. The city of Cudahy did that, so let's learn from them. Legal services, it'd be great to learn more about how much. And then a few of the other asks is cancel 4th of July show and pass an ordinance that requires ICE officers to identify themselves.
Thank you, Jesse. Chris Garcia, please.
Good evening, Norwalk Mayor, council members. I want to bring to your attention matters of extreme distress to parents of Southeast Academy and the school district generally, who with all the parents of students are your constituent voters. The Norwalk-La Mirada Unified School District School Board has unlawfully voted to merge Southeast Academy with John Glenn High School. They voted without assessing the destructive effect, not just leaving this military and law enforcement academy high school standing where it is and just repairing the roof. Instead, their vote destroys the culture and success rate of Southeast Academy and causes irreparable damage to its students and the special needs students of John Glenn. The parents are now outraged, and we are taking legal action to stop the merger to protect this community. The district board made this decision without sufficient notice to parents or an opportunity for parents to be heard so the board could discuss it with the families and community. They followed a sham process and just made an arbitrary decision, which is already damaging to this community. This merge will hurt, if not end, Southeast Academy. Ms. Rios, you once fought to keep this same campus open when it was a different school, but now your husband has voted to close that very campus. Where has your fight gone? I personally believe that Mr. Rios should have recused himself from voting simply due to the fact of his clear conflict of being your husband. It is a major conflict of interest being that you can vote on zoning. You should have advised him of this. Council members, Southeast Academy is an amazing school. Here in Norwalk, and it's my personal opinion that you as Norwalkians should be speaking up in favor of Southeast Academy keeping its own campus. This school is a beacon of Norwalk and the greater LA area. In fact, it's the only military law enforcement high school of its kind in California. When people mention city of Norwalk, the response should be, oh, the place where the military academy is. I moved to Norwalk for the sole purpose of having my 3 sons attend Southeast Academy. Others have as well. This school brings good people to Norwalk. You all have the influence to help save this school. We already have at least 4 empty schools. We don't need any more here. I'm asking you to do whatever you can to help the school remain on its own campus and to honor the military and law enforcement families you all claim to support and the community in keeping this very treasured school. We are currently seeking to have district hold a hearing to do a notice and rational assessment before we file a lawsuit to save the school, but you can all help us. And be assured we will file a lawsuit. We'll take it to the California U.S. Supreme Courts if necessary, if reason doesn't prevail. We also will be going to our assembly members, congressmen, senators to ask for their help. Maybe we won't have to take it that far. Maybe you can all help us save this very unique gem of Norwalk before it makes headline news. I appreciate your attention in this matter. I'll update you in the next meeting.
Brian Tyndall, you're next. Brian?
I'm a little torn about my comment because I'm not sure what direction to go. We'll see how long this takes. What are we all doing here? You ran for office to represent the city and its residents. Currently in the SoCal area, we've had 700 to 1,600 kidnappings by masked gunmen with no identification. I say 700 to 1,600 because nobody has any idea how many actually have been taken. We spend millions of dollars on public safety in the city. We have a sheriff contract and our own public safety department standing behind me. What are they for if not for the residents who are being kidnapped? More than a year ago, one of the council members was asking for a permit to hold a candlelight vigil for a mother who had been kidnapped in Mexico. How is this any different? Masked men pulling people into cars counts as a crime. Why haven't we been arresting anyone for this? There have been multiple cases of people impersonating ICE, including one person with a trafficking conviction. We all sit here thinking we are safe because we aren't criminals. 70% of those who have been taken have no criminal history. We sit here safe because we think we are in the country legally. Many of those who have been taken are also here legally. You think you are safe because you were elected. Many mayors, representatives, and even our own state senator has been arrested. The city is 72% Hispanic. We are not safe. There have been raids and kidnapping in the city and in neighboring cities, so I ask again, what are we doing here? What is the plan if ICE comes into the chamber? How about the July 3rd celebration? Right now, residents are getting basic supplies delivered to their houses because they're afraid to leave their homes. If this was a gang issue, we would have unlimited overtime until the issue is fixed. The city made one public statement more than a month ago. That is not enough. So again, what are we doing here? Since I have extra time, I've been speaking at this council for 2 years. I've seen 50 construction workers up there, and I have never seen the city attorney make a threat or remind people what public decorum is.
Vanessa Luna Perez. Vanessa Luna Perez. There we go. Hi.
My name is Vanessa. I'm a 44-year resident of Norwalk. I'm a mom, a wife, a daughter, and now I'm a very concerned citizen. We have all seen the stories in the news regarding ICE's cruel and unlawful tactics. Yesterday, while I was on my way out, I attempted to stop at the Arco AM/PM on Rosecrans and Bloomfield. I'm sure we've all been there. It was closed, and there were several white ICE vehicles. There were caution tapes all around the pumps, and it was clearly closed down for ICE. I took pictures. I have proof. I posted it. I let people know stay away from the area, or to protest the area. This was around 1 p.m. yesterday. I went back in the evening. By about 6 p.m., they were cleared out. I called the city mayor's office. I let them know as well. And as a mother, I have Hispanic children. They're brown, and I'm frightened for them. I am scared for them to go to school in the fall. I don't know what to expect. I know ICE has been trying to get into schools. I know that they've been turned down in many cases, but for the most part, this administration is cruel, and I'm scared. And I don't know what else to do but to come to you as my city council and see what you guys plan to do to offer to help your citizens, to protect your citizens, your schools. Parents can't send their kids to school not knowing that they're going to not come home at the end of the day. I mean, we can't have that fear. It's not okay for us. And I'm also concerned, as they mentioned, with ICE. We don't know if it's truly law enforcement or if we're dealing with J6 people that were deputized or bounty hunters. And I tell you, I'm not going to be willing to allow one of them to take me. I mean, or my husband or my children. It's cruel. And I'm hoping that the city can provide us with more than a statement. I'm hoping that you guys can come up with some sort of a plan to put in place for us so that we have a recourse, there's some sort of action that we can take or that you guys can take to help your citizens, because we can't keep having people kidnapped off the streets and just go about our day like it's okay, because it's not okay. And we're fearful. I'm fearful. I don't even want my husband traveling for work to Arizona. I mean, it's a scary time. So I'm asking for the city to please communicate more with us, put some plan in action, and help your citizens feel safe during these times. Thank you.
Thank you. Evelyn Nuno. Evelyn?
She had to leave, so I'm going to say it for her. Thanks.
All right.
Evelyn Nuno, former city commissioner, chair for the 64th Assembly District with the LA County Democratic Party. I want to recognize the statements that the city has released to assure residents that they are coordinating with ICE in this community, as well as the efforts to continue funding free legal assistance for Norwalk residents in the Social Services Department. I agree with former comments asking for more, and I agree. The continuing ICE activity is not only a threat to our undocumented neighbors, but also a threat to naturalized and native-born citizens and their children. There is an increase of federal officer impersonations and kidnapping of U.S. citizens with no accurate tracking of where they are being taken and ensure that the proper care is being offered. As of yesterday, June 30th, National Public Radio shared that of the people that have been arrested, 7% are considered to have the worst criminal threat based on ICE threat levels. On the other hand, 83% of people detained by ICE are classified as no ICE threat level. Mayor Ayala, I was happy to hear you say in your remarks when you were voted in as mayor that you wanted to focus your term on social welfare programs to help the most vulnerable in our community. Now is the time that we need this the most. I hope the city council and staff are just as determined to do as much as possible to protect this community.
Thank you. Irma Ramos.
There was a period in time when the Philippines was an American colony. All Filipinos had the legal right to immigrate to the U.S. This was in the early 1900s, and many young Filipino males came here to work as farm pickers. They settled in Central California, and despite being heavily exploited fruit and vegetable pickers, the American promise of upward mobility and hard work allowed for some of them to buy homes and even businesses. In the 1920s, many young Filipino men who immigrated to California were lonely. Only 1 in 14 Filipinos who immigrated here were female because of the preference of male farm workers. Many Filipino men started associating with white women. and a Filipino-owned dance club began hosting events where white women would dance with Filipino men. This angered the racist community because how dare these brown monkeys, as Filipinos were called, touch white women. These sentiments grew amongst the racists in Central California, and in the 1930s, a mob was formed that attacked every Filipino person they could find. Filipino Americans were dragged from their homes and beaten. Filipino Americans were thrown off bridges. History calls this the Watsonville riots, and they lasted for days. The goal was to attack every Filipino person they could find and send a clear message: don't come to the US. And if you're here, hide and get out. Very soon after this, the government started passing laws. Racial intermarriage between whites and Filipinos were outlawed. Immigration from the Philippines, which was still a US colony, was capped at 50 people per year. And eventually, under the guise of benevolently giving the Philippines independence, they made sure that not even 50 Filipinos could be US nationals and immigrate to the US. Many say come here the right way, but Filipino-American history shows us that the right way can easily be snatched away and has been driven not by American ideals of equality, but by racism. The ICE raids in our city are driven by the same sentiment that triggered the Watsonville riots nearly 100 years ago. I urge you, our very diverse city council, to stand against the growing racist mobs and protect our city and our community. Let Norwalk be on the right side of history. I urge you to stop ICE from staging activities on city property, to provide Know Your Rights information at city properties, and have the City Department of Social Services provide food, legal services, and other support to impacted families. Cancel the 4th of July show and pass rules that require ICE agents to identify themselves. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Jonathan. I can't read your writing on your last name, so if there's somebody here named Jonathan to speak, your time. No Jonathan? Okay, I think we have two others, but I'm not sure. Is there somebody here identifying as Norwalk Community Member number 2? How about Norwalk Community Member number 1?
I am an outraged and disgusted community member witnessing the ongoing occupation of ICE and the kidnappings amongst our own neighbors and loved ones. You posted something on your website around 3 hours ago regarding the kidnappings. Where was your voice for your city 3 weeks ago when the first sightings here in the 562 area? The lack of care, support, and urgency and safety for your community is really shameful. I also heard the subject of sustainability and outreach and preserving of your future. Meanwhile, you're silent about the brutal kidnappings of your own community members. How is that sustainable? Today, there is footage released of the Ness, essentially concentration camp in Florida, given the name Alligator Alcatraz. This is where our community members could be forcibly sent to. This should be your #1 priority. I've been sitting here for more than an hour and a half, and I haven't heard even a quick mention of the ICE raids. This is the most urgent matter right now. Do more and be better now. We won't forget your silence. So these are our demands. Establish a formal rapid response network to create a system that alerts and protects our community during raids. Affirm Norwalk as a sanctuary city. Collective refusal to allocate any city resources to aiding and embedding ICE. Shameful. And when you're out in the 4th of July celebrating with your families, I hope you know that is a privilege that a lot of people aren't going to get.
Thank you very much. We're adjourned.